We're live. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's podcast. We're gonna try something different. We're gonna do it live, and then what you can do. Oh, here we go. We can see ourselves.
Oh, there we go.
And then what you could do is you could shoot your questions. If you have questions for me or my guest here, Reese, then we'll read them here, and then we'll try to answer them. And then after we're done having our conversation, then we'll do a more Q&A where you guys will shoot your questions. Then we'll look at them. Then we'll try as best we can to answer them. But for right now, welcome to Reese. He's going to be this week's podcast guest. Reese, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, first, thanks for having me.
Oh, hey,
it's a real pleasure to be out here in California, come by, hang out with you.
You're the first one that is here, like live
really?
in the person. No, actually, we had one way back in the day, but it's been maybe 8 months or something.
Been a
right?
while.
It's been a while.
So a lot of Zoom. So
everything's on Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have the real person in front of us here.
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure. So thanks for having me. It's been fun hanging out a little bit over lunch and getting to know you. So I live in Pennsylvania. So out here for California for another event, but I'm glad it worked out to stop by and see you. And let's see. So about myself.
You have a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
right?
I have a YouTube channel.
So he's a fellow YouTuber. What's the name of your channel?
It's called Frugal Repair.
Frugal Repair.
And so where that came from was, so ever since I was a little kid, I like to take things apart and figure out how they worked. Most of the time it was unsuccessful. Like
Okay.
It ended up as a pile of stuff that just went into the trash because I couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
And with more information out there, like the internet's been so amazing, especially YouTube, you can actually look up how to fix these things. And so, over the last 10 plus years, I've been able to learn how to actually fix it, not just throw it into the trash, because I took it apart, thought it was interesting, and didn't know what else to do with it. Oh. And so, so I got in this habit of like asking myself a question: this is broken, but could I fix it? Yeah, I think I can. Rather than saying, I have no idea how to do this. This is too scary. This is too much beyond my ability. Yeah. And so getting that confidence here and there. And as I did that, I learned that, well, when things break, no matter what it is, there's usually only one thing that breaks, right? Yeah. All the parts don't break at once. There's usually one thing that breaks. And if you had the knowledge to figure out what that one thing was, well, then you could essentially bring that thing back from the dead. Yeah. And use it again, whatever it may be. And that not only is that great financially, but it gives you a great sense of accomplishment personally. Yeah. And so then I began to see, wow, this is a common thing, that there's one thing that breaks and you can fix it if you had the knowledge. And so that's where the frugal repair came from, is you don't have to spend a lot of money. Yeah, you don't have to buy a new one. Yeah, sure, certainly. You don't have to buy a new one. And the repair costs are actually pretty low, too.
Yeah. And what kind of devices did you started doing?
Well, so...
Because everything breaks.
Yeah, everything breaks.
Everything
I would say that when I started getting into my more modern era of myself, of repairing things, let's put it that way, that, I don't know, it was 10, 12 years ago, I was going to mentor a guy for a summer. And he didn't really have a dad, or dad wasn't around very much. So I was like, okay, let's do some dad-type stuff. And I was like, oh, what's something that's like out of my comfort zone and certainly out of his comfort zone? We could do it together. And so I watched a YouTube video where this guy pulls a TV out of the dumpster
okay.
and replaces a capacitor on it and gets it working again.
Wow.
And I was like, that's it. I can do that. All right, well, this is what we're going to do. And so I'm, looking at dumpsters.
Dumpster diving?
Yeah. Where do you find TVs in the dumpster? But I actually went on Craigslist. And so I was like, okay, you know when you have the bug for something, it's like you see it everywhere and you got to jump on it, like the first opportunity you have. Yeah. So broken TV shows up on Craigslist. I got to have it.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I paid $150 for this broken TV. So not quite out of the dumpster.
Yeah.
And my wife thought I was crazy. She's like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing
Broken.
this?"
There's a reason
and I was
why
like,
it's
"I can
broken."
fix this. Trust me, I can do it. I think I can do it."
Okay.
And so what ended up being the other guy wasn't interested. The guy I was going to mentor. So I was on my own on this one.
Okay. So
that whole plan didn't work out.
Okay.
But so I was like looking at it.
You were
looking
invested at this point.
Yeah,
so
I had
you
to do it. Oh
yeah.
yeah, totally had to do it. And so I didn't really know where to look. I looked online and I found a little bit of clues. Only shocked myself a couple times.
Okay.
And learned, you don't touch those big, those big round ones. Don't touch those.
Yes.
And so I realized, okay, what I can do here is I know the problem's on this board, so I can buy another one and just replace it. Now, at that point for me, that was a big accomplishment, right? Unscrewing it and doing connectors.
Yeah.
Now that's not a big deal. But for anybody else, that is a big deal, right? And that sense of accomplishment, when I hit that power button and the logo came up, oh, that just felt so amazing. And so I'd credit that moment to this sort of new attitude of...
Wait, you crossed the threshold. I always say there's a threshold. The time before you know you can make things, and then the time after you can make things, right? Like create things. For me, it was like making things, but for you, it was like fixing things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was, I think that was it. That was sort of the moment of like, wow, I could do this again. And I could do it again. And I could do it with other things. So in the TV realm, I called up a local place near our house, and they sell TVs and appliances and stuff. And I was like, hey, you have any broken TVs? And they're like, yeah, man, we just put them outside by the dumpster.
Okay.
And I said, can I have them? And they said, oh, sure. Wow. So I go over there and pick out the ones I wanted. And
is that because TVs traditionally are like non-repairable? I mean, now they were repairable back in the 50s when you had vacuum tubes and all thing. But then eventually there was a line that was crossed where like now it's cheaper to just buy a new one or something, right? Like,
I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it because,
Why
pretty
would they
much
just put them in the-
everything's repairable, right?
why would they put them out in the back in the trash can?
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't know why. And that was after their technicians had looked at it.
Wow, so they've deemed not repairable by someone already.
Yeah, maybe they wanted to sell some more
New ones.
I don't know. I don't
Plan
know.
obsolescence.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know their motivations, but
Okay.
For whatever reason, they were by the dumpster.
Okay.
And they were largely repairable. Like if the screen's broken, you can't. That's the one part on TV you can't fix. So if that was the case,
You'd have to replace it with a new one.
yeah, but you can't really even buy screens anywhere.
Okay.
So that's sort of a non-starter. So if you happen to have one of those, if your screen is broken, what I recommend people do is part it out, sell the boards on eBay, recoup a little bit of your cost.
Because someone else could need that.
Yeah.
board.
Oh yeah. So that's where I was buying my parts was from eBay. So people were parting out their TVs and bringing life to my TVs.
Yeah.
So somebody
Okay.
needs that obscure part that, you think, who's ever going to buy this? Somebody needs that somewhere. And so then I got hooked up with this guy who was buying returns from Walmart and Sam's Club. And I said, hey, would you be willing to sell me some of your broken TVs? And so he was willing to do that. And so then I learned, each one was a new issue because they were all like random problems.
So not one thing. It's like because there were different brands, different models. So I see. And they were, but all fixable. Did you ever get to one where like, no, this is not fixable? Like,
Well,
you couldn't find the
I
problem?
broke some that were fixable.
Okay. So you broke them beyond the point where they were fixable?
Yeah, well, I'm playing with it, and bzz, some shock, and I see smoke go up, and I thought,
Magic smoke, they
I
call
just killed my investment.
Okay.
But my favorite one was when I had bought all these broken TVs. This is sort of maybe a tangent story, but it was kind of fun. It was the most valuable TV I had in the whole lot.
Okay.
Back, I don't know how many years ago this was, but it was like the primo TV.
Yeah.
Someone obviously had bought it at a box store and returned it because it didn't work. And I thought, okay, I'm going to work on this one near the front end because I like to do the best one first, right? So I open it up and I just start laughing. I'm like, no way. No way. There was one connector that I guess the robot just didn't connect it in.
Oh,
and so I just click it in, and that was it. That was
and so for those watching this, like, I have a TV. TVs are cheap nowadays. I mean, you can get like a 80-inch or 70-inch for like $300 or something, right? That wasn't always the case. Like 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago or something, I bought a $6,000 TV.
Whoa.
Because it was, 72 or 70, I don't know what size. This was
72 feet.
No, 72 inches. And so I had money at that point, and it was a company. It was my company. You know, we were going to do a trade show or whatever. So I was like, I need the best TV, you know. So it wasn't my money. It was the company's money. That's why it's spent. But now here's the weird thing. This is the exact same TV I have at home still.
Okay.
And I'm still using it. Now, the spec-wise, it's like, that's a crappy TV because it doesn't even do 4K. But, you know, I guess maybe it was a good investment because it would last 10, 12 years or something. But back in the day, TVs were really, really expensive. So this was a thing that it was worthwhile doing. I mean, I guess now it's still worthwhile fixing things because we want to be, you know, responsible when it comes to, you know, consuming products, right? We don't just want to throw things away or whatever. So there's many reasons why you don't want to do this. But at one point, like you said, that was probably a very expensive TV, and all you had to do is connect one connector.
Yeah.
And you were ready to go.
So it was, that was nice because that helped pay for all the other broken ones. And so I knew that if I wasn't successful at fixing the other ones,
Okay.
at least I hadn't lost out. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot from that.
From fixing TVs.
And so from there, I got into computers, and particularly Apple products, MacBooks and iPhones. And it seemed like every friend that I had dropped their phone.
Yeah.
Once a week. Right?
Yes.
They spaced them out
Yes.
so that I could fix it for them. Or they spilled water on their computer and or something like that.
We're always messing up our electronics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so before this, you didn't know how to do this. You learn by trial and error, just by watching a lot of
YouTube videos and trial and error, yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I have an engineering background, so I know some of those concepts for sure, and I know how to use a multimeter.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know it, and the big thing was fear, and this is something that I feel like was a big barrier for me, and I think for a lot of people, and that's part of what I want to do with my channel is help demystify a lot of this stuff, and because the information is out there, a lot of the barrier is your own fear to try
different.
Yeah. And so that's what it was for me. And I did one, then did another, then did another, and I got to the point where if I were to say to myself internally, I'm too scared to try, I have no idea how to even begin to fix this thing.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, now I want to try it, you know, because how do you learn unless you try?
That's true.
And now you have this whole internet with all the world's information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And so,
no matter how obscure, you can look up someone that's doing the same thing somewhere. And
yeah. So I'd love to encourage people to, try something and try to tackle that fear. If something breaks, why don't you think about fixing it yourself? I understand if you don't have time or if it doesn't make sense for whatever reason, but maybe if you have the inclination, you got the time.
Yeah.
Hey, try to take a step out. What's the worst that could happen? It's already broken.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. At least take it apart so you can see what's inside.
And don't touch the big.
Yeah, the capacitors. Those hold energy there for long. Sometimes I think now they have like bleed resistors and a lot of this stuff, right? So that they don't do that. But I know traditionally you didn't want to touch the caps.
Stay away from the big.
Stay away from the caps. So yeah, I think you're right about that. Like I see in my videos and in my channel with my audience, like the problems that people go, yes, but what if it doesn't work? That's how they approach a thing. They're like, I would try the thing that you're telling me to try, but what if it doesn't work? And I'm like, what if it does? Like,
Yeah.
why should you approach something with failure in the thing? It's like, what if it doesn't? What if you were able to get it working? You know, then you gain something from it, right? And so people do have a wall that doesn't let them. And maybe watching one of your videos would change their mindset.
Maybe. There was one time where, so I bought a broken, I think it was a MacBook Air
Okay.
off of Craigslist.
Okay.
And again, my wife thought I was crazy.
Yes.
And the guy he actually came to my house to drop it off.
Okay.
So he handed me the MacBook Air with a piece of paper. He said this was taken to the
Repair.
the official Apple store, and here was their official response on the paper.
Okay. So
You know what
diagnostics.
you know what it said?
No.
It said unrepairable.
That's it?
Well, I mean, that was the main point.
Okay.
Was that it was an unrepairable laptop.
But it had the reasons why, or they had what else did it have?
No, it didn't say why. It just says unrepairable.
Unrepairable. Okay.
So I took that as
Challenge.
yeah. I'm like, all right, okay. So the professionals deem this unrepairable.
Yes.
So let's see if
See what a hack like
let's see-
myself
yeah,
will do.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I thought of it. Yeah. And you know how that turned out? It was a 10-cent resistor. I soldered on a new one. Good as new.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you find the battery sister?
Oh man. Well, they're YouTube videos.
Oh, okay.
Process of diagnostics. Like, okay, what's the problem here?
What doesn't work? First, you're like,
what
what system doesn't work? Because
Yeah.
to have a computer, you have a basic set of systems, right? You have, you know, the power supply. If there's no power in the entire thing, it's like, oh, it's the power supply. That's the first thing. But then they branch out, right? Now you have the graphics card, and then you have the main CPU, and you got all this stuff. So knowing a little bit of how the thing works, that eliminates like whole systems that you can start going.
Yeah.
Right?
And so, if you've done enough electronics, you have that paradigm in mind where you can start to diagnose things into categories and then focus in on that category. So, like as I'm remembering here, that particular one, it had to do with the backlight. So if you could,
So it was just a screen that wasn't coming on.
yeah. So what they would say is they'd open it up, turn it on, and be like, "There's no screen, there's no image."
Yeah.
And so when I open it up, I hear the chime, and I'm like, no. So pull out my phone, turn on the flashlight. If you turn your flashlight on an angle against the screen, you can see the image. Then you know it's a backlight problem.
Why are you kidding? So are you saying that the Apple geniuses are not that smart? They're not that genius?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the background. I just know that it came back, as unrepairable.
Why would that be? So that was in the main board, in the main
Yeah.
motherboard? Okay, so the reason is probably because they're trained to just replace whole boards,
probably.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so this is a machine that has one main board, right? And I guess they do have a smaller subboards around there, but basically the most expensive one is going to be the main board, which has the bad
Yeah, the logic
component.
board. Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, okay, it's a $1,200 computer, and the board is probably $900. It's just not worth it. Just buy another one. Just put unrepairable, and get it. Try to convince the customer to buy another one, and then that's the easier way to go.
Yeah, that may be what they were. I don't know. I don't know their motivation, but I do know, like for me, to take it from unrepairable to working was just really satisfying. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Track down the problem, find the problem,
Change it.
Yeah.
Were you able to just buy that resistor anywhere? You just looked it up?
Well, the schematics were online, so I was able to find out the values for it, and I just bought it at a online shop.
And then these are tiny, so you need some kind of specialized tools.
you need some magnification.
Magnification.
But this was a while ago, but
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what magnification I had at the time. But I have a headset magnification, and that can do most things. That can help you out in a lot. If you're just getting started, that's what I started with, and so that's what I would recommend is one of those. but you can link that in your video description.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even have that, and I should get some of those because I wouldn't. Look, to tell you the truth, I'm one of those persons that I'm afraid to try new things, even though I shouldn't, because I am doing things all the time, right? But I guess we all draw the line somewhere, right? And I'm like, okay, like component level, yeah, maybe I don't have the time for that because I'm dealing so much time with this other thing or whatever, I'm doing things that are outside my comfort zone all the time, but I just never gone there, like how to repair a thing to that level, to the component level, right? But I mean, maybe in the future I'm game for that, right? Because why not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know the basics of computers and, electronic devices and stuff, but when it comes to coding and when it comes to that sort of stuff, yeah, I'm not that great at it.
Well, I think the key that you touched on there was you're trying something new.
Yeah.
You're willing to take that risk. And so I don't think it has to be in board level repair.
Yeah.
Right? The stuff that you were showing me back in your shop, that's pretty, I don't know how to do that stuff. I don't know how to, take gears and make a whole new thing, connect to this other thing. And
yeah, and by the way, I don't know how to do that. I'm venturing into that. Like,
Okay.
I might just make a thing that doesn't work or it breaks every,
Yeah, but you're trying it.
But I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop me. Like, the fear's not going to stop me from doing the thing. So I think maybe just the reason why I don't try that is because my interests lie in so many other subjects.
Sure,
and so I'm like, that's cool. But I'm more interested in this one thing. I'm going to do this other. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to get across, at least me, right? Like, that's what I try to get across on my videos is like, you should try to hack your way into life. Like, you don't just take it how people say like that. Like, someone's going to tell you, no, that's not repairable, right? So what was that a lie, or was that not a lie, but it just means that they're not willing to do the thing?
Oh,
right?
I think it's they're unwilling to.
They're unwilling to do it.
They don't offer that type of repair.
Yeah. And so I think, most people just have to accept it. Okay, well, I need to buy another computer. It takes someone like you that says, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, or in that case, a lot of independent repair shops can do that kind of work.
Yeah. Do you watch like Louis Rossmann, right? Because he does quite a bit of those things, and it's interesting to see. And he has this whole thing where the right to repair, he's fighting that battle, right, or whatever. Yeah, I get a lot of my subscribers trying to get me on board with him and fight that fight, right? And I'm like, yeah, I believe in that fight. I'm just like, I don't know if I have anything to add to that, right? But I'm like, I think we should have the right to repair our own stuff, right? Because that's the trend that's happening.
Oh yeah, when it breaks and your only recourse is to buy a new one. And there is the possibility to take it apart, find the thing that's broken, in some small little thing in there, in that black box, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so if your only option is to throw it away and buy a new one, that's a good example why right to repair is important.
Yeah.
So it's not stealing the content, the person who made the thing still gets to retain all their rights, but now it doesn't end up in the trash because now you and me and everybody else can figure out, we can fix it now that we have this information to learn how to fix it.
Yeah. Secondary markets, right? Like, they should exist. I know that, companies, they don't make money if I sell you a thing that I repaired or whatever. It's their product, but they're no longer making money. And so they're like,
Did you see Veritasium's video on that? It was called Why We Don't Have Nice Things.
Oh, no,
you should check it out.
might have not seen it. Is that a new one?
In the last couple of months, I think.
Oh, maybe I haven't seen it. What was the gist of the whole thing?
Oh, just like how he talked about a story of how there's a light bulb that's been on for like 100 years.
Yes.
And then he talked
about that whole consortium of people that got
maybe
together.
You did see it.
Okay, I did watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, where they were saying like, listen, if our light bulbs last forever, we can't keep selling them light bulbs. So how about we make them last a little bit less?
Yeah.
which was a crazy thing, right? It's like conspiracy theory stuff. You're the crazy if you're talking about this stuff. But there are clear examples in the world that it happens. I mean, you just have to realize that corporations will try to make money, and create ways of creating revenues that are like constant, are not just one. Like you sell that phone right there, and that's it. You never come back because now you have a cell phone. If they can make one where you can keep coming back to get a new one, or maybe to add more functionality to it or whatever, then that's a much better
Or it has this like time bomb in it so that it goes off right as soon as your warranty runs out.
Yes. Planned obsolescence is a real thing, right? And I think, I think there's plenty of evidence now, plenty of players and companies that are putting that into their products. I mean, and this is the reason I'm in business. It's not all bad. Like, for example, it's bad for the consumer, but it's great for someone like me. Like, I'm dealing with like trash, essentially. It's like someone else's batteries that are no longer able to work in their own or their original devices.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And there's a bunch of different reasons, but planned obsolescence is one of them.
And if you didn't process these batteries, what would happen to them?
They would go into the trash. Or, a lot of them. There's the other thing I think that Americans don't realize is that a lot of electronics do end up in the landfills. Like if you put, like, let's say you have this phone and you didn't want it, you broke it, or, got water in there or whatever. You could throw this in your regular trash can and it would go into the dumpster, and that truck will get it. Not every single processing plant for trash has a system to grab this and take it. So there's a high likelihood that this thing will end up in just your local landfill.
Yeah.
And it would be there forever. And this thing has a lot of good stuff. It's got gold, right? From all the electronics in here. The battery has copper. It's got nickel. It's got.
But you've got several years even before you start thinking about that, right? Because there's somebody else who could use a phone.
Oh yeah.
That's even just a few years old. So might as well. It's cheaper to fix it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I think what I'm saying is, like, people don't realize that if you don't save this, if you don't make a secondary market, right, and we all just start throwing away our electronics, like a lot of us do, then they end up like in the worst place ever, which is the landfill, right? It's like that's the worst place, because they're just there forever. They're gonna be there for 100,000 years. Nobody's gonna do it. Although I think maybe they'll start taking stuff out. I think that I saw a documentary where people saying that it's actually economically feasible to dig up all that trash and then go through it again and get like metals and get like.
What do they have, like a plasma reactor or something that they dump it into and boil it down to its elements?
No, I think it's much less complex than that.
Okay.
I think what they were saying is that there's enough metals. Like, I guess we didn't value metals for a long time or something, or we were just throwing it away. So there are these companies that are buying landfills that have been there, like 20 years ago. There was a landfill, and then they covered up after it gets to a certain point, right? And then these companies are going and buying them, and then they're mining the trash.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they're mining for all these like rare earth, like metals and components and raw materials.
Huh.
And some of them make a lot of money. Some of them they lose. It's like depending on where they are, the region or whatever. So it's kind of a gamble at this point. But I think generally speaking, there's enough value in the trash. And so that tells us that we're just throwing a lot of useful, valuable stuff in the trash, and we're putting it there. So we don't create these markets sort of like, you that are showing people how to repair them, me that I'm actually like getting some of this stuff, buying it, and then showing people how to use them and then selling them to them. Yeah, this stuff will end up in the trash or sending it overseas, which is not that great either, because then we're sending a bunch of value then to China. We kind of need that here, right? Like, I know we're one of the wealthiest countries in the world, but we can't afford to just be sending a bunch of, valuable stuff all over the place.
Well, I mean, and you're providing a service that really is beneficial to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because you don't have to buy new things for everything.
Yeah, and that's a good point too.
Yeah,
You
the
don't have to.
DIY thing. Do you think so? How long have you been doing this?
Doing DIY.
Yeah, DIY, like at least on your channel. How long has your channel been
Oh,
around?
at least 5 years.
5 years.
Maybe a little longer.
Do you think the DIY scene is growing?
Well, I think so. I mean, everything's growing, at least on YouTube. And
Well, no, for a long time the DIY thing was declining because remember, like back in the 50s, when you buy a TV, you
you mean like
take it
in the last
generally.
century, not just YouTube?
No, just generally, like as a society.
Society. Oh, yeah.
It's DIY a growing movement because it wasn't right in the 50s. There you wouldn't throw away your TV just because it stopped working. You would take it to the repair shop.
Yeah, you would think repair first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would get books and they would tell you how to. There was these testers for. Have you ever played with vacuum tubes?
No, I haven't.
So there's these testers where they had all these little sockets and you would get different tubes and then you would read the numbers and click a few things and then you'd put in there and it would light it up and it'd tell you like different things and you're like, oh, this tube's still good, and then you put it back on your TV. That's how you would.
Okay.
So that's how you would fix. But there was a movement that you, the owner, could maintenance your device, your TV, and then if that didn't work, then you could take it to the a more expert.
Yeah.
That had more knowledge and how to fix things, maybe how to change caps, how to change it. But that went away, I think, for like in the 80s, 70s, started in the 70s and 80s. Now you just throw stuff away, like just get a new one.
Yeah, that unfortunately that happens. But I'm hopeful that with the messaging, right, that we're saying of overcoming fear, and the addition of all this extra knowledge that's being put out there, that will create more momentum behind the repair it first, or I could do this first mentality. Yeah. Rather than that's for the experts. I just got to buy a new thing. I could never. Dot. Yeah. And so, I do really hope that changes. I've heard of repair clinics or repair cafes. I haven't been a part of one, but I've heard about them, like all over the country and some other places around the world, where the idea is that you get some people who know how to fix things, pull them together, and then you bring people in from the community, you advertise it, and they come in with their broken, crock pot or whatever, toaster, I don't know, whatever. They bring something in, and then you work with them to fix it.
I see. So they
learn.
A guided service to how to fix a thing. I think that would be very valuable because, like you said, it's the unknown. It's the someone could demystify the repair process, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's it. That's what you guys are doing. Okay. Yeah. Right. It's the magic is when you don't know how people approach a problem. It's like that's when you're like, how? I don't even know how to start.
Yeah. And it gets tough when the device or whatever thing you're going to work on is made in such a way that it's kind of unrepairable, where you have to kind of break it open to get to it, or they have tons of different different security screws. Yeah,
tamper-proof.
Nobody has those in their house. They've got Phillips head, and that's it. Yes. And so there's some thwarting going on of people who go to do it, but they're like, oh, I can't even. I don't even know what that looks like. That pattern on that screw head. So.
And the mentality is from the corporations is that you're too dumb. This is for your own safety, right? I think that's usually how it's approached. Like, you guys, you guys don't know how to fix this. This has to be done by a professional. Only a professional can touch this. This is the rules. This is how they were designed. Someone, I don't know who set those rules up, but like I didn't go to regular school when I was growing up, so those rules kind of didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't have the right. Like, what are you talking about? Anything could be learned. Like, and I think it's like it's a thing that regular people don't have, or at least a lot of people don't have. That's like, no, these are only, fixed by the mechanic. Your car could only mechanic could fix your car, because if not, it's dangerous. And it's like, yes, there's danger in all the things that we're doing, but no, nothing is too dangerous to not to try. I mean, maybe messing around with like a nuclear plant or something.
There are some things that are too dangerous. But yeah, that generally speaking, it's I think it's a misnomer that it's just too dangerous, so I won't even take the next step into figuring it out.
I think we've been trained for too long to think that.
I mean, just think about driving on the street. That's dangerous.
It's dangerous. That's one of the most dangerous things.
Everybody does it, right?
I always like to say eating tacos is the most dangerous things you do. I mean,
tacos.
there are like how many people like in America die from obesity and burgers and tacos, right?
I think you're going to say like they choke on the tacos.
No, it's burgers. It's like too many burgers will kill you eventually. It's
wait, is that because we're in California? Because it's tacos?
Tacos, tacos the burger here.
It's the burger.
No, they're usually just unhealthy. They're greasy and they're like whatever. Just like you have too many. They're good. Have you had good tacos?
No.
Oh,
we'll have to
remedy
that.
Yes, you're in California. There's good tacos here, and that's a problem. They're good for you. I mean, they're good. They taste good.
So we do dangerous things like eat tacos. And drive on the car. Drive on the roads.
So anything else that anyone else does is dangerous, right? But it's never too dangerous for someone to attempt it. All you have to do is be smart and take precautions.
Well, and the thing that I tell people is to use common sense, and to don't go faster than you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And so don't try to rush things, and especially if there is maybe some potential danger there.
Yeah.
Use common sense. You can always stop. You can always ask someone for help.
Yeah.
You can take your time, but you'll learn in the process. As you go along and you do it, and maybe you'll make it worse and you'll learn for the next time, but you're still learning. Those are the best
lessons you can learn.
Yeah.
You'll never forget that.
Yep.
Well, that's you do something very similar to what I'm doing, and that's why I was like, when you were coming, I'm like, I want to talk to you. I didn't know much about you. I seen a couple of videos. You reviewed one of these units, the battery boxes that are coming out, like the Blue Eddy or the
EcoFlow.
EcoFlow.
Yeah.
What did you think about the EcoFlow? As I remember, you put it through spaces, right? Like on that video, you showed how to run it, how to run different things. Did you try different things?
Yeah. Well, I liked. I liked the unit. I was really impressed by it. But the in terms of making the YouTube video, I wanted to make it sort of as real as possible, for what you can do, right, in a YouTube video. Yeah. But and so I had a lot of fun just kind of pretending, hey, we got a power outage for a whole day. What would we do? And it was fun to be able to run some solar panels out there, run a big wire up to our kitchen, and run our deep freezer, which is downstairs, and our fridge upstairs, have to cook meals for our family of 7, and see how the sun will recharge the battery while it's running, powering those other things. Yeah. And then also the downfalls to that when it got cloudy and rainy.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I won't make it. Well, I did make it. I made my goal. And so that was a lot of fun to test that out, and I think it was a great unit.
Yeah, I think they're very useful, and I think what people don't get is that we depend so much on electricity right now, right? Like you work from home, right? So the power's out. What do you do?
You need it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're kind of stuck, right? Mm-hmm. If your kids are learning at home, and their class requires them to be on Zoom or to be looking at some website or whatever.
Yeah, what's today's date? Oh, yeah. If my wife is watching this, I told her, here's where our battery is.
Oh, okay.
Because there may be a scheduled power outage in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that
she would have the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, it's becoming kind of common. And so that's why batteries, I think, that's why I'm doing, well, because the batteries, like, I don't know, like a few years ago, you didn't think much about batteries. Like, whatever, a battery's like a thing that always runs out. And
do you think that, who has made that more ubiquitous? Do you think it's Tesla Powerwall?
Well,
Or is it Jehu Garcia?
Hey, I don't know. It's right. It's chicken or the egg. No, no. I think Tesla's done a great thing marketing that. Right. It's the most famous. It's the least popular battery, and somehow it's the most famous battery. For the longest time, nobody could get one. It was just an idea. It was like a nice wall box that they made, but they couldn't even make it because they didn't have enough battery cells to put in their cars. But they have such good marketing and such good design that they made it where it's very attractive, right? And I made a video, one of my most viewed videos. It's like a DIY Tesla Powerwall, and I just went and coupled up some batteries together and soldered them together and put it up in a wall. And, that project was kind of a proof of concept. Like, I never really finished it and installed it and used it, I ended up doing much more smaller, simpler systems,
You didn't end up using it?
I mean, no, it was like I never plugged in like a solar panels on top and then like an inverter and stuff. I just show people how to make the battery.
Okay.
And then you can connect this to your inverter and use it. But I never used it like that. And part of the problem with me has been that I don't own my own home, so I can't really show you like a full install at home. Because I can't do that at home, right? I have to respect the owner of the house, and it's like not my place, right? Also, the other big thing is like there is certain types of regulations. So if you're tying to the grid, right, you have to get permits and you have to do all this other stuff, and so there's always like a gray area. If you're going to, like doing an off-grid system, then you don't need permits. You can just build your own thing. But you've gone through that, right? Because you've installed a full solar system in your house. How was the permitting process?
Well, I had to learn how to do it. So that was something that I had dreamed of doing, was putting in solar in my house. And, so I combined this crazy idea with this attitude of like, I can do it, right? And it seems so scary. It seems so like impossible. I don't know anybody that's done this.
Yeah.
But, let's give it a try. And my wife, very forbearing, and said, yes, you can try this. So we, did the research, and I said, hey, how about this plan? And she was good with it. And I bought the stuff, and I guess along the way I had to do the permitting. And I would say that it wasn't too hard, but the making of the plan set, it's like the architectural drawings of, that was hard.
So the city wants you to design the system and then submit those design, whatever they be, like the plans, right? And then they approve it, or they say, oh, no, you need to work more on this. You have to put more strapping here, or thicker wire here, or do this other stuff, right? Yeah. So basically it has to be evaluated by a city official and then give the okay or the no okay. So how did you know how to meet all the requirements for the okay?
Okay, so this was a lot of work because the main thing, the problem was understanding the National Electric Code. Because most jurisdictions operate under the National Electric Code.
So there's a national one. There's one that like a general one. Because
there's a National Electric Code, and then your jurisdiction and then maybe adopts what version of code they want.
Yes, because I've seen YouTubers make a video and they're like, "Oh, this is how I'm going to strap the thing right here," and then you see in the comments, and then, "Oh, that wouldn't fly where I'm at. It's like you have to use this type of connector, and this wire nut is like you're using the red ones. No, you need the purple ones." That sort of stuff, and it's almost like you got to interpret. The code.
Yeah, some of it is jurisdiction code for what works in your area, and some of it's just preference.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not a code issue, right? Red strap or blue strap or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had to figure that out. So it was a challenge. A lot of internet searching and reading and actually emailing and calling the electrical inspector. Like, hey, what about this? If I do it this way, will this work? So I did pester the electrical inspector a lot.
Wow. Okay.
So he was a great guy. He was a great guy to work with, and he helped me understand, like, hey, that'll work. You're right. Mostly I'd do the research and then ask him if I had understood it correctly.
And then he was like, yes, okay, or no, you need this or that.
Mm-hmm.
So So that's before you form the final document that you're gonna submit.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But I pretty much had an idea what I was going to do, because you have to know sort of the sizes and some of the general concepts, so then you can make the plans.
Mhm.
I did some tweaks right before I submitted it.
Did you
but-
start with a template, or you had to start from scratch? Because these are like actual drawings, right? These are like
Well, there's online programs.
okay.
There's several out there. You can just Google them.
It's like a starting guide, and it's sort of
Well, see, there's not much for people who want to DIY.
okay.
So what I had to do was I had to sign up as like a solar installer for one of these places.
Wait, so there's quite a bit of hacking that you had to do basically to get this done.
And so, but anybody could do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to prove anything. It's just I just sign up, pay the money. But that's who their software is geared towards.
I see. Okay.
So anybody could do it. So I had to do that, and then I had to learn how to do that software, which was a little bit, clunky, but got it to work. I don't know if you saw the video, but I couldn't even figure out how to make one of their diagrams work out. So I just said, forget it. I'm trying this so hard. I don't think it matters. I think it just matters that they see what you're going to do. So I drew it with a pencil and paper, and it worked.
And this was because there's different sections, right? Like there's like the mechanical, like constraints. Like the reason why they want to know like your roof layout and your thing is because these panels they weigh a lot once you put 40 or 50 of them. Mm-hmm. So they need to know that your roof structurally is going to be able to withstand that extra weight that you're putting in your roof.
And they're not the ones that certify it. You have to go get that certified by somebody else, by an engineer.
Oh, civil engineer.
And then you hand that approval by the certification from the engineer to the jurisdiction.
Okay. And then that other section or people, they care about the electrical soundness of your system, right?
Yeah,
And
they care about the weight, so they need to have the engineer sign off. They care about the electrical, that it meets the National Electric Code, or whatever their version of what have they've adopted for their jurisdiction, I should say. So, for example, I get a lot of comments on my video that I made about that people say, well, you did it illegally because you didn't have the fire setbacks. And that's a very common...
what's a fire setback?
So the fire setback, I imagine they would have that around here. So you have to have, 24 inches or 30 inches around the perimeter of your roof. So you can't, like in mine, I had my solar panels go almost up to the edge.
Okay.
And in our jurisdiction, they didn't adopt that part of the code.
Oh, okay.
So mine was totally legal.
It's legal in your area, but it would be legal in many places.
Yeah, you may not be able to come right up to the edge.
Yeah, okay.
But there are built into the code, there's some exceptions, so you could explore those exceptions.
Okay. Yeah, so see, that's part of the reason why people are always asking me, like, why don't you just build a finished battery thing that we could just buy from you? And I'm like, well, because a lot of this stuff requires for it to be installed by an electrician. And the codes are different everywhere. Yeah. This might be illegal where you live, but might be legal in other places, right? So I'm not an electrician. I don't know how legal the thing is. That's for you to find out. So that's the DIY part has to. Mm-hmm. It's part of the thing. Like
you have to go and find that out. Figure it out. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's hard to tell someone because nobody wants to hear that, right? But it's a reality. It's like you're gonna do that. You're gonna install solar in your roof. You're gonna have to do some DIY. You're gonna have to do some research and talk to the local.
Well, IKEA probably trained us all that you buy the furniture, you have to put it together yourself.
Yes, you've just follow this. It doesn't even have words. It's just pictures.
Just pictures. Yeah,
you follow these pictures.
Do some interpretation.
And I'm trying to do that, but I'm trying to do it up to the line. And it's hard, right? Because you do it up to the line where I'm going to help you the most that I can, but then there's still some extra that you're going to have to do as the finished thing. And so that's the constant battle that I get with my thing. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very helpful because, that's what people have to do with the DIY solar system installation.
And it's I would say that, I mean, obviously I think it's doable.
It's doable.
I think that depending on your level of comfortableness getting on your roof and your level of comfortableness running a drill and connecting wires together, that it's definitely very doable for most people willing to do those other things.
Yeah.
And the knowledge is out there. It's out there to help you get it done.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the satisfaction that comes from getting that project, that was.
It's a big project,
That's
right?
different than fixing a device.
How big of a system did you? I mean, it's a pretty sizable system.
Yeah, it's 15.6 kilowatts.
Okay, that's pretty big.
So 48 solar panels.
48 solar panels.
And so pulling in the driveway and looking up and thinking, wow, like I actually did that. That's pretty crazy. And it's providing for all of our electricity, our whole family's electricity year round, and it's even actually generates some income.
So you're net zero right now, yearly.
Yeah.
You're net zero. That means he's producing more electricity than he's using in an entire year. So even though you still use some from the grid at night, for example, right? The surplus during the day makes up for it, and so
right. And so you have to look at it from an annual perspective.
Yeah.
And which makes sense because we have net metering in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure what it is in California.
That's the other thing is that every area is different and like.
Yeah, if you're going to get solar, you have to know how the credits work, how your electricity works, because some places, like in Pennsylvania, they give you a 1-for-1. So if I make a kilowatt, I get that 1 kilowatt
Okay, I think
credit.
that's rare. I don't think that's. From what I understand, it's not everywhere. I think a lot of utilities are like giving you just a fraction.
Yeah, they might give you half or something.
Even less than that,
Or
I
even
think,
less,
in a lot
yeah.
of places.
And so in some of those places, that's where batteries start to make a whole lot more sense. Or I'm sure you have time of use rates here.
Yes.
And so that's another case where batteries,
Yes.
we don't have those where I live.
What's your kilowatt? What's your
We're
price per
about
kilowatt?
10 or 11 cents
Okay,
per
yeah,
kilowatt.
that's super off peak here. I think it's 12 cents off peak, and it's up to 50 cents.
Yeah, you guys have pretty high electricity here.
Right now, I think, what time is it?
How much did we spend electricity on this whole thing so far?
About $1,000. So it's about $1,000 a month in electricity that I'm paying here because we have 3 of these units.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I meant like our little.
Oh yeah, and right now we're paying
$1,000 of electricity, right?
50 cents a kilowatt hour. We'll probably use like 1 kilowatt hour. So that's where batteries become.
Yeah, and when you look at the economy of it, it makes a lot of sense. But people, if you're thinking about solar, you need to think about that aspect. If batteries will make sense, and also the credit side of things. So, like where we're from, there's not only the net metering, the credit we get on our bill from the power company. There's also something that the state has done with an alternative energy portfolio standard. They call it that. And that they have these things called solar credits.
Solar credits.
And so you can sell those to earn some money too.
To who? Back to the.
I don't know who the end buyer is, but I sell mine to a broker.
Okay.
Or aggregator. And they pull them all together and sell them in larger chunks, probably to like coal companies.
It's someone
who has to pay for whatever to meet the standard that the state had set.
Okay.
So that enough green energy is met by whatever percentage of the electrical generation.
Oh, okay. What is credit worth like as far as energy?
It's a market, so it fluctuates.
No, but I mean, like, what does one credit represent as far as like energy?
It's a megawatt, so 1,000 kilowatt hours.
Okay, wow, okay. And that has a price, or it fluctuates. The price fluctuates according to whenever you're selling and stuff.
Yeah, it fluctuates because it's a marketplace. So there's buyers and sellers, and so it depends.
It's sort of like the SEV credits that Tesla sells, right? For making, because every car manufacturer in California has to make an X amount of their fleet or of their product.
Oh, really?
Emissions free.
Okay.
So since Tesla only makes emissions free, they get so many credits that they're like they don't need to use them. So they sell them to other car companies.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
And in fact, quite a bit of their profit every quarter.
Oh, it's from that. Okay. Interesting.
So people are like, yeah, that's Tesla's a loser. They're not. actually generating any profits. It's only because of those credits or whatever.
Okay.
I guess maybe the argument is valid or whatever, but whatever, you know. So these are similar to that.
Yeah, I guess in that sense. Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So it's so you can offset your generation. You can meet the requirements, even though you can't meet the requirements by buying the credits
From someone else
that
has extra ones. Yes. So you're not paying for electricity then.
No.
Essentially, at the end of the year,
we're making a little bit.
You're making money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you live in a place where it's not as sunny as California, right?
Yeah, right. It's not. But people say, "Well, Pennsylvania, solar's not going to work there," but it works just fine. And we get sun.
So it turns out solar panels generate electricity even through the ultraviolet or something like streams, right? So you don't need like physical solar rays to get like, so even
it works on cloudy days.
Mm-hmm. Even that light that's coming in, there's quite a bit. I got sunburned this weekend from going to the ocean, and it was cloudy. And I came back and I was all red, and I'm like, hey, the sun never even came out. Well, it does. The light penetrates through those clouds, certain, parts of the spectrum.
Yeah, I was surprised when I had it installed and running, and how cloudy. I went out on a cloudy day and opened up the app to see what the production was, and I was like, oh wow, it's
generating.
I mean, it's nothing near on a full Sunday, but
yes.
It was more than I expected.
Yeah, it's enough to make it worth it, right? Because you guys you have like long winters there, right? Like it's not like here in California, like the difference.
When was your last snowstorm?
No, we never like. There's no snow here. The last year was a freaky year because we got like 10 days like of.
Wait, do you own a coat?
No, we got 10 days of rain or something, and we're like, what the hell's happening here? Like it doesn't rain here, it doesn't snow here, it gets cold. The coldest it'll get here is like 40 degrees maybe, like at the middle of winter, But where you're at, it gets cold, right? And there's snow that falls, and so that means for a long time, those panels are probably not generating.
Well, yeah, I mean, snow is an issue. This last year, there was some snow that was, production took a hit.
Can you run electricity back into the panels and melt the?
I wouldn't do that.
No?
I wouldn't do that. But
is that not a thing that happens? I thought Tesla was supposed to do that on their system.
Maybe. I don't know about it.
But it runs electricity backwards and it heats the panels enough to the snow to just fall off of it. I don't know. I might be crazy, but I thought I'd
yeah, I don't know much about that. But the thing is that
a good project, DIY project.
Yeah, there you go. But because it's net metered, then any effort to melt that snow so it slides off, or to physically go up there and do it, so you have the physical danger to yourself, climbing on your roof on a snowy roof. Using a big pole and maybe
scratching, or breaking.
Or scratching panels or doing something like that. Or buying the system that might melt them, whatever this is. I just don't know that it's the risk is worth the reward.
Yeah, it's not practical.
Because, in the northern hemisphere where we're at, under net metering, you're getting the very bulk of your production in the summer. And so it's disproportionate to what happens in the winter.
But you're using the most electricity in your winter, you said.
Right. And that's why net metering, because you build up a credit and then use the credit all winter long.
Oh, I see. See, here it would work different. We don't have electric heaters here in California. We have gas heaters. Because electricity would who wants to pay?
Right.
It would be 50 cents a kilowatt hour.
You don't need too much heater.
And you don't need to, because it doesn't get out of the cold. So here, what's happening is that you need the most electricity during the summer, because that's when you're running your AC all day.
Yeah.
But that's when there's the most energy to go around, because the sun, we've got 10 hours of sunlight here, But even like that, I think the problem that is happening in California is that we are overproducing solar during the day. So from like 10 a.m.
and so it could be a problem.
It's a huge problem. We actually, as statewide, we have to pay other neighboring states to take extra energy during the mornings, and then just to come back at night and be like, hey, can we buy that energy back? Just because we don't have storage. And
Yeah.
so that's a huge problem. That's why
And
California
is it
needs-
because the steam plants and the coal, all the other typical, hydro plants or whatever, that they can't dial up and dial down?
Yeah, it takes hours.
Yeah.
And you can't really cut their, because they are on long-term contracts, so you can't really get rid of them if you want to have them, right? So they're on multi-year contracts, so you have to use them, and so that's why they have to turn off a bunch of the solar things, because those you can literally turn them off, like press a button, they start producing.
Yeah.
Where the other ones take so long to take off. Yeah, so there's a bunch of problems, but those problems are not the same depending on where you're at. Like where you're at is completely different, right? So you're producing a lot of power during the summer, but then you're using all that power during the winter.
Yeah. And the same would be true for, if you look at a sun map, or sun hour per day map of the U.S., you could see that, say where we're at, we get 4.5 sun hours per day on average per year.
4.5, is that where we're at?
I think so.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I think that's about what.
I thought generally it was like 5.5.
Well, no, that might be here where you're at, but where I'm at, it might be around 4.5.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that Florida and Southern California probably are in the 5.5 range. Well, then we're only an hour a day different on average, and then you can see it goes all the way up into Canada, which is very surprising. And so in a net metering situation, only up in northern Canada, it still works out.
Still works.
Because they get 24 hours of sun for 3 months.
Yes.
And then darkness. And so in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from an annual perspective,
it works out.
It works out.
But maybe on a daily basis it doesn't, because then you have a bunch of energy during the summer. So there's still, I think generally speaking, no matter where you're at, storage, it's a thing that we need more, right? So it doesn't matter where you're at. And in California, you need storage, because then we wouldn't have that huge problem of having too much sun energy being created during the mornings, and then have a deficit at night when everybody shows up and turns on their ACs and their TVs and stuff. Then all of a sudden the utility comes and are like, oh my God, we need all this power, buy it back. Turn all those other, tell them to go online. The extra power lines or power factories, right? Or plants. But and then in your case, it would be because, well, you would have to have a place to put all that energy during the summer, right? Because how does that happen? Like, does your state energy fluctuate that much during the summer and the winter? Because everybody does the same thing, right? Like, you're not the only one that has electric heating.
I mean, other people do. Most people have, or I guess I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people have upgraded their heating from an electric baseboard, which is what we have, to something more efficient.
Oh, I see. Wait, so you actually have the heating elements through the floor?
No, that's radiant heat. We don't have that.
We
have, it's like a little box on the side of the wall.
Ah, and it's got a heating element.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it pulls air from the ground, passes over the coils, and heats and goes up. So it doesn't make any noise, doesn't blow any air around.
Oh, it just does it like without moving parts?
How does it? No moving parts.
Oh, I see. I think I saw that when I was in Chicago. It's like a little thing that goes all the way around the room, like it's like long and.
You could be referring to when people use hot water.
Oh.
Hot water baseboard.
Oh, so maybe.
Electric baseboard. Usually, it's its own unit.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so people don't have like the central air like we do here.
Oh, no, they have that.
For
My
heating?
house is old. Our house isn't upgraded.
Oh, I see.
So, a lot of people have central air.
Okay.
A lot of people have heat pumps for their heat.
Which is air conditioner just backwards.
Backwards.
Runs. Yeah.
Yep.
That doesn't heat as well, does it? People say it does, but I don't know. Like,
I don't have firsthand experience, but I hear that they're making better ones every year.
Yeah, and they're way more efficient somehow. I don't know how, because they'll like usually I guess they're now the split units are way better, the AC units, than before, right? Like if you get an old, like for example, at my old house where I was at, it had a 4-ton unit, central air, and it used to pull like 4 kilowatts or something, like 4,000 watts when it was on. And it was on and off all day. It would use like, out of the 35 kilowatt hours a day, 20 were the stupid thing, you know? So it was very inefficient. And I think now they can get them way better with split units. And that's the same thing that can do heat. I guess it would be great for California because we don't get that cold here. So you just need to do a little bit of heat.
What? Do people do geothermal cooling around here?
Not that I'm aware.
Really?
No. I think here it's all just air. Because we all have to have air conditioners. Like, we would roast here, right? Like, during the summers. So because we have the central air, then they just put an extra little unit that's got gas. And then we all have gas for cooking, natural gas. Mm-hmm. So it's just easier to run that. Because that's really cheap. I mean, heating is really cheap in California. Mm-hmm. Because it's just gas.
But you know what I mean by geothermal. So they'll run like a water or a coolant line under the ground. Yeah. Let it get cooled by the ground. Yeah. Maybe is the ground too warm around
No,
here,
it would work here. I don't think
people don't do it.
No, I mean it should. And by the way, they knew this 100 years ago, right? It's like I don't know why houses were never built like that, like to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
It wouldn't cost that much if you're building the house. You have to do the foundation, and you can. Some people do it straight down, I think, right? Yeah. And then sometimes they dig it like a pool trench thing.
They do like a well hole or a trench.
Yeah, it almost seems like an innovative way of doing this thing, you know. And as you're like, what are you doing? You're just burying some hose,
and you could make your house more efficient, the envelope of the house more efficient too, which would really be smart.
So in the summer is cool water, and then the winter is it's hot water. I mean, it's warm water or whatever, right?
Yeah, it just takes less energy to take it from whatever the
74 degrees, I think, or something like
that. Well, I don't know what it is here. I don't know that it's that warm, but where I'm from, it's in the 50 degrees Fahrenheit realm. I think it's below the frost line.
I think it's warmer here. I think it's like somewhere in the 70s.
Okay.
Which is cool, right? And during the summer, it gets over 100 here.
So it takes less energy to take that 70 up to 90, 100, whatever. Yeah. Your hot water tank is at.
No, I've never seen anyone do that here. Like, I never seen it. Maybe I just don't know enough people, and maybe there are systems out there, but it's like I never been known of anyone that's doing that.
Okay, right? Well, when you get your house,
yes, I'm gonna have to do that.
Drill down,
get one of those guys. There are some services where they'll come to your house and they'll drill, because that's the biggest expense of that. It would be to drill a hole deep enough. So they have these services, or where they have a machine, a giant drill that goes up and just drills down a thing, and then you put that. And then it doesn't take that much room because they just go straight down that one. I've seen videos about it.
You have to do the calculations to see how much tonnage you're going to use, and then how deep the well is and how many wells you need.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm going to do it when I get my house. I have to get my house.
You probably can't DIY drilling a well.
Oh, you can DIY. What are you talking about? Everything's DIY. No. I don't know if I would want to do that. You have to pick your battles, right?
Yeah,
like everything.
Exactly. Yep. You're not getting into well drilling, and maybe not into board level repair.
Yeah, don't go down every rabbit hole.
Yeah. I was going to say that earlier. Yeah, that's a temptation when you get into this mindset.
Yes.
It's like, I can do it, and then you start doing research into that thing, and then you realize, I didn't do this other thing I was supposed to do, and then you find something else that you're interested in, and then you start doing research into that, and because there's just a plethora of information out there.
Yes, I mean
there probably is a DIY well driller out there. And
there's a guy showing you how to make the drill bits. You can get into that.
So you can't get into everything.
Yeah, you pick your battle. You will never finish a project if you just try to do everything from scratch, right?
You'll never, unless you try, you won't learn.
Yeah, that's the thing that I got into. I wanted to show people how to do electric cars, but then I was talking to this one friend of mine that he's a teacher, and so his thing is about teaching, and how to teach concepts, and the things, and you have to understand all the stuff. And I'm like, no, you're going too deep. Like, that's like, I want to have a thing where, like, you show up, we'll build a car, and you'll have to learn the things that you have to do, because those we're going to do them, whether you understand why you have to do them. I mean, I think the more info you have, it's better, but you can't go in every single thing, because you would never finish. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be a 2-year course, and you wouldn't. I want to be able to show, like, the most practicals. Like, you buy the thing from here, what's in there, what does it do? Is like, there's a bunch of things that you can look in there, but you don't have time, because we're going to build this car.
Yeah, and it's okay that some of that is a black box.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to know everything that's in that black box.
Yeah.
But you're once you've done it once, twice, 3 times, or whatever, you're building a electric car, you want to know what's in that black box.
Yeah. And I'm taking it apart. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, like, I like the controller, right? I know it's just a bunch of MOSFETs, which are, transistors they turn on and off, and they have a little controller and thing. And then after that, it's like, do I have to know every single thing so I can make it? No, I just need to understand that that's what's in there. And there's like a little device that you use to, program it and whatever. And that's it. Like, that's all that I need to be able to convert a car, right? Now, if you want to go deeper into that thing, go, on your own free time. But for this one course, it doesn't. So it's the same thing when you're trying to DIY things. You just kind of stay. You learn the minimum that you need to get to your goal, or else you'll never reach your goals.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. What would you say that building your Volkswagen, electrifying your Volkswagen van, was your kind of biggest DIY project? Or what were, if so, maybe what are some other like fun DIY projects you've done, or fears that you've faced that you've overcome to see them to come to fruition, or at least maybe they failed, but you tried it.
Yeah, no, I failed quite a bit. I guess that's the only way you learn, right? So like I said, I started early on. I wanted to make movies, right? That was the thing that I wanted to do. Like, I had a regular job. And so then the thing that we all wanted to do was trying to make video cameras look more like film. How do you do that? Right? I mean, there's a bunch of different ways, and everyone was trying to do it, not just us, by the way. Like, the camera manufacturers were trying to do that.
Oh, so you're up against some pretty big competition.
And so they were trying to do, and then one of the first things that they started doing is like, video is interlace. It's this thing that half the image is shown, and then at the very next moment, the half of the next frame is shown, and then the other half disappears. So that's interlace, right? And this is a thing that they did back in the 50s so they can save was it bandwidth, I think, back in the 50s? Because they had low bandwidth, and so they for transmission and stuff.
Oh, I thought it was for the display on the CRT.
I thought it was for broadcasting, and they would keep the low bandwidth so enough to and so then they realized, okay, that's video, but film, it's one full image. Right? And then it goes away, and then there's another. So it's a progressive showing of images. So then some of the manufacturers started doing that. Oh, I remember when the first progressive camera came out. I was like, oh my God, But it still looked like video. It didn't look like film. So then the next breakthrough was that, film had these big lenses, big format lenses, where the video cameras had these tiny, tiny sensors. And so the difference in the optics of the size of the sensor made for the image to look different. So the depth of field was different. And so then they're like, oh, we could just do something to hack it. And so what they did is they made this, there are cheap lenses everywhere, like full frame photographic cameras have been around forever, and you can get cheap lenses, So then what they do is you put a screen in front of your camera, and then you focus your camera to that screen. And then you put a full frame lens in there, and then you project that image into the screen. And then now you get the optics of the full frame, but because you're recording this little screen. So you're basically recording a screen. So then they made this device. It was called a depth of field adapter.
Okay.
And it was, it was highly complex. I mean, it was like a thing that required optics and a screen.
But you made your own.
Yeah, so then I just went online and started searching, and people were like, oh, if you take a piece of glass and you need grain for the light to be able to stop. So a screen is semi-translucent material. Yeah. So because it's so small, you needed to have super fine grain. So they realized that there was like a lot of materials like aluminum oxide. It's like down to like 1 micron. So you can take this powder and then you grind that screen and it makes like little scratches and dots that are like a 1 micron size. Wow. So super fine. And then you can project that image from the thing, and then you can record that. And you would have to put a different lens on it because cameras weren't designed to focus at that such close distance, right? So you would have to put a different lens. And so that's where it went.
But you figured all that out.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was trial and error. I just found a place that would sell surplus lenses. I think it's still online. There's just a company somewhere in the United States that just buys these giant lots of lenses, either because a thing is for whatever reason, and they have like large lots. So I would buy samples of these and I would test them and try them, and someone's like, oh, and so you need double element lenses because basically a single element will create a thing that's called fringe. So it sends the light waves in a way that starts separating all the colors.
Okay.
So you want to be able to correct that, and they do that by putting another lens in there.
Yeah.
So I had to learn all that.
Yeah.
I had to learn all that. And then you're like looking, it's called whatever. That was pretty fun to learn all that stuff. And
would you say that was harder to learn than learning how to electrify your van?
I think technically it was more difficult, but I think the scope of the project was much bigger when it came to the car, because now you're doing a full-size car, and you're dealing with like a battery pack that is, at that point, I remember the first one that I bought, it was 12 kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
And it's hard to give perspective to those that don't know what a battery is, but I mean, 12 kilowatt hours is the biggest battery that most of us have ever seen and touched or owned. Mm-hmm. Until recently, nobody had that, right? Now, a lot of people that have Teslas now, they run around with the 75 kilowatt hour battery. But even then, I think most people don't realize how the size of that battery. Mm-hmm. Like they can't really perceive how much energy that is. To give you an example, I've always been trying to figure out how to
do it,
put it in perspective. I think your brain uses like 100 or 200 watt hours a day.
Your brain,
like the average human brain.
Average brain, okay. Right.
Yeah. So this is what, like 1 kilowatt is. How does that break? So it's 1,000. So 1,000 watt hours is 1 kilowatt, right?
Kilowatt hour.
Kilowatt hour. So, the top end Tesla's got 100 kilowatt hours. So that energy could run your brain forever. I mean, for a year plus, probably more than a year.
I don't think that's helping.
That's not helping?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, it's hard to convey the energy.
It is. Because I think you would know it when you know your range of your electric car. That probably gives you a better sense for how much energy you use, or your phone. How long it lasts for.
Yeah, so your phone here has a 3.5 to 3.8 watt amp hour. Oh, that's amp hours. What's an amp hour?
Now we have to do math.
Now you have to do math because you have to divide.
I don't want to do math.
So what do we see? 3.5 amp hours times 3.7. So it's about 13 watt hours.
Okay.
Whoa, this thing is so advanced and it's so efficient that your brain uses way more energy than this throughout the day. But of course, you're talking about your brain. Your brain uses quite a bit of energy. Like, that's the most energy well, other than your muscles, I guess, if you're working out. But I mean, even a hard workout, right? Like, if you go running for like a mile, how many calories do you use?
I don't know.
It's like,
I don't know.
We're very efficient, and your brain uses quite a bit of energy. It's hard to. I've thought a lot about how to convey the amounts of different energy. I mean, you put a 15 kilowatt solar system in your house. That's a huge system. And you wouldn't know that until you, I mean, you know, because you have to get every panel up in your roof.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used online programs that helped me to estimate what it would, how much I would need to make what I knew was our annual usage.
You first have to figure out your usage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you do that?
Looked at the electric bills.
Yeah. That was the easiest way.
I looked at the last 3 years. I took averages. I took projections.
Yeah.
We've, our family's growing up. There's more hair drying and more heat on because in the house. So
everybody has their
just
computers.
More usage.
Lights are always on.
We're working on that.
Yeah.
Turn the light off when you leave the room.
So how much did you say you use in annual?
19 megawatt hours.
19 megawatt hours. I don't know. Do you know where that lands in the average?
It's probably higher. Much higher.
Higher than the average?
Yeah. I would assume that it's higher because we have electric baseboard heat.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But the average takes that into effect, doesn't it?
Well, average of the whole country? I mean,
yeah.
Like you don't have...
Don't you have... Because I thought like the average is like 35 kilowatt a day or something.
I don't...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's much lower.
It's much lower? Yeah. I always thought like, what are people using 35 kilowatt hours a day? Like, what are they doing with that energy? I have 2 electric cars, but I'm in California.
Yeah.
So
well, I think if people have electric cars, that's going to use a lot of... That's going to... the usage is going to go way up. Mm-hmm.
But not really, because I'm still somewhere below average. So I think there's a lot of people that have electric heating in the country, and that's why that throws that average really high. Because I thought, what are you guys doing with 35 kilowatt hours? Like, really? Like, I have 2 electric cars, and I don't even consume that much? Uh-huh. What are you guys doing with electricity? And I think it's heating, probably. Or, I don't know, AC?
There's heating, cool. Yeah, AC.
Maybe Texas uses because there's houses in Texas that have 2 AC units.
Oh yeah, well it's very hot. Lots of AC.
Arizona, every house in Arizona has an AC.
Oh, you can't survive without AC.
You can't survive. You'd be in trouble. So, all right, we've been talking for an hour and a half.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this goes quick when you get into. And look at that, we have some people that are paying attention. We got some comments. So now we're going to see if we can answer some of your questions. What do you guys... Who's watching? Let me see. How many people do we have watching? Do we know, Misa?
Yeah, it's like 60.
60 people? Oh, okay. It's kind of slow today. Yeah. Why don't we read some of the comments here and see if we could answer some of their questions. Hello from the Netherlands.
Hello.
Just try not to electrocute yourselves, is Derek. Yeah. By the way, Derek, the ones that are in the green are channel members.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So thank you for being a channel member. Definitely. Oh, do we know how many likes we have? 77. Ooh, guys, come on, you guys got to hit that like button.
What are you trying to get up to?
So when we hit 100, I'll do a battery giveaway.
Oh, battery giveaway.
Yeah, so those scooter batteries that I showed you that I have some. So I'm telling them, like, okay, you might not know what to do with these, but save on to them, like, hold on to them.
Who wins? Anybody?
Anyone. I'll just pick a random comment in here. And so anyone that's in the chat.
Oh, here. Anyone in the chat.
Yeah, okay. So if you want to enter to win, you have to just comment, either comment with a question and a like. Yeah. Okay. And I'll do the giveaway when the likes go in. And usually we do like 500, up to 500 likes. And we reach them. The last time we reached the 500 likes.
Nice.
So,
nice.
And by the way, of course, you have to be in the United States because I can't ship batteries outside in the United States. You know that. And all you have to do is just comment and be active here. I want to make ASCII art appear on the screen behind them. So you know what that is? ASCII double thing?
Oh.
I think that's that thing, right? That goes into like symbols and stuff. I had to learn it once because I had an RC charger that would tell you, like, it only had 2 digits to tell you the capacity of the battery, but after it went into 3 digits, then it would just do like a weird symbol. And I'm like, what did, I don't, so I had to look at it, and it was that ASCII thing. I had to look it up.
Oh. I don't know.
My wife just rolled her eyes. I'm out. Says unfinished plans.
Unfinished plans. Nice.
Why did she roll her eyes? Good afternoon from Puerto Vallarta. Oh, we have people from
Here you go.
Mexico.
ASCII art is art made by text.
Art made by text.
Yes.
Oh, so it's not the same thing that I was saying? Probably
Okay.
not.
Can you give us some of that ASCII art right there in the chat?
Yeah. Mine crypto during the electric overproduction, bruh. There you go. Have you thought about getting into crypto mining with all that extra?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah, you know what's really
Yes.
tough is it's hard to buy any of the hardware.
Yes.
It's like all sold out and
Yes. Here's the crazy thing. I went and bought a bunch of it, and they're not like the best cards or whatever, but I was able to get 6, I think, which is the max that you can put per, I think, motherboard, I think. And we were supposed to do the thing, and it's been there. I'm like, come on, we have to get to that project.
all right, there you
Because
go.
they were quite a bit, they were expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I think I paid like twice what the cards were actually worth because there's such a shortage.
Oh yeah, demand is so high, and so the price is really skyrocketed.
Yes. But definitely I have a little bit of money on crypto, so mostly lost some money. But
You
definitely
mean it's in hardware that's
well, actually, no, it was, I think I was down, but I think it just came back and now I'm even again.
oh okay.
So I think I'm up right now. Electric heat pumps are awesome in California. My heat pump water heater was the best upgrade of all my conversions. There you go. Gilmore Designs. Designs air or ground source. Oh, see, people are asking them. I have air source units. They work great with solar and cooling the interior of my house. Yeah, there you go.
You have a question there at the bottom of calculating solar needs for a van. So it's going to be tough to get enough solar on your van, like if that's what you're thinking on the top. But are you thinking that you might, park somewhere and pull out some foldable solar panels? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, let's think about this, right? Because let's see. So he's got like a, let's say that he's got, man, what's those minivans that are like kind of square? The one where that girl was driving, the national news. It's like an EV200 or Transit Connect.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say a Transit Connect. I think you could probably put like 2 100 or maybe 3 100 watt panels up there, right?
Yeah, that's still not.
So let's say that's 300 watts per hour, but you can only get that for like 5 hours a day or something, or 4 hours a day or something. What is that? Like it's over a kilowatt hour though, right? Is that not enough to run? Because what are you running if you're at?
I think that's the thing is you have to find out what's your load.
Yeah, what's your consumption?
Mm-hmm.
What are you running? So that's a particularly tough one for me because I don't know. I know they run. Sometimes they run, well, like a little refrigerator, and maybe a little AC unit, but the consumption of those is just completely unknown to me. So you would have to basically figure those out to be able to tell. Misa, can you come out here? So there you go. 400 watt if you use the bonnet as well.
Okay, so you would have pull out a drawer when parked. Interesting. I don't know how would that work? How do you pull out a
400
drawer?
watt. Well, yeah, because you could put a solar panel on the thing and then you could just pull it out. I had someone on the podcast that literally had 2 of those. So basically, the roof had panels, but then they had these drawers that would come out, and then he would triple the area, the size.
I'm having it. Where are the drawers at? Are they at the top?
Yeah, they're at the top. So he made them out of aluminum. So
Okay.
it's the aluminum's, and then they have guides and stuff.
Okay.
So of course while you're running, while you're going down the road,
Yeah,
you
you
only
can.
have
Yeah, you
it.
can have those.
But then you park, and then they would like roll them out.
Okay.
And then they would hinge up and down like this.
okay. So you could aim them.
So he could aim. 'em.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. That's cool. So yeah, if you could do that, that would really help.
And see, the thing with him is that he was not just getting like solar energy just to like live or to live. It's like he was actually on a electric vehicle.
Oh.
So every
he needed everything.
yeah, so he was doing some crazy amount. It was like 5,000 watts or something of solar. It's like it was a big van kind of thing. Now it gets tricky because one of those things came out when he was rolling and the whole thing.
Oh no.
Yes. But it is possible to travel and only on solar. That was the
That was what he was trying to prove.
yeah, that was the concept.
Really?
It's like,
Okay.
can you travel just on sunlight?
Yeah.
And I think it's the thing is that yeah, you can do it. It's not easy, but oh, there we go. See, here's the face asking you cartoons.
Thanks for putting those in for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the question there, yeah, you need to calculate what your usage is going to be. Take your best guess. You know, if you don't have one of those like watt meters, get one of
Yeah.
those watt meters and plug it into your various devices and
Yeah.
kind of guess at how long you would use it for a day and add all that up.
Yeah.
And that's where you might want
Yeah,
to start.
and if your thing changes from day to day, maybe you can do it for like a week or something and then just get the average of the whole thing, right? But yeah, that's step one. You have to figure out how much energy you need.
What's the hardest fix you've ever done?
What's the hardest fix I've ever done? I struggle quite a bit with software. Like, okay, so I'll give you an example. One of the last projects that I had was a conversion with Louis, Fun for Louis. He was here, and then we converted his van, right? But he uses a type of motor that it doesn't require a proprietary like controller to program the motor. You could just use your PC. And I'm sure that's what the designers are like. Hey, we don't make you buy an extra piece. You probably have a PC, so you just connect it, and you just download this piece of software and you do this. Except that it was really hard. It's really hard to like. You gotta have this PC that's kind of old, and you gotta work through all the bugs and like, because you gotta like doesn't find the port, doesn't do the thing, you know. And I'm sure it's super easy for people that are around computers, around PCs forever. But so for someone like me, I'm a Mac guy, and I'm just like never have to deal with any
Yeah.
like what are those things that the compatibility drivers. I just found it super hard. I basically gave up. Like I install Windows on my Mac machine natively, and I could never figure out how to get a connection from the software to the port. USB port so that I can connect this thing. We ended up doing it with his PC.
Yeah, okay.
And it's so problematic that now, like next week, I have to go to New York to do a TV show where we're going to do and install one of these things. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a PC and then just for that one purpose.
Okay.
Right? And I don't know how to fix it because I just struggle so much with dealing around, especially with PC, like with Windows.
So we're adding another thing to your you're not going to learn right now list.
Well, I think I'm running out of time to do it, right? And so I'm like, I'm just going to buy a PC, install this software, and then go to EV West and then like test it over there before I head over there. Because then over there it's kind of like it's like a high stress
Yeah.
environment. We have X amount of days, and it's going to come down to me. I'm supposed to be the expert. I know how to do this thing.
Yeah.
And if my machine doesn't work, I want to troubleshoot the motor and not troubleshoot my computer, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think I'm just going to do that, just set it up. So that's really hard for me. I know this is a stupid thing that for a lot of people are like, super simple. People are probably rolling their eyes when they're listening to this. What's your hardest fix?
Oh man, I was trying to think. One of the things that I spent probably way too much time on a repair, but I didn't want to lose. sometimes you get into these battles of repair and you don't want to lose. And so
Yeah.
I was not losing this one, even though it
Okay.
made no sense for how
Okay.
much time I put into it.
Okay.
All right. So I was fixing an iPhone 6. This was, it might have been last year. So
Okay.
I don't know how many, it's like old.
Yeah,
like
iPhone
older.
6. We're in 13.
So
I'm waiting for my 13.
But I was fixing it for one of my kids to use. So they unfortunately have a dad who fixes things, so they end up with a bunch of misfit electronics.
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't going to lose on this thing, and so it had previously been water damaged. And with water damaged stuff, it's like you don't really know what. It's really hard to tell at times.
Yeah.
Because it could be anything. It could be wrong. But tracking down the problems, working under my microscope, and I'm like, okay, it's this chip. So I remove that chip. I'm like, okay, I think I got it. I think I'm going to figure this out. And then I realized I ripped off a couple of the pads under the chip, which is very bad.
Yes, they're almost impossible. And you're talking
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
size.
Yeah, you can't see it with your naked eye.
Yeah.
And so you need a microscope to do this. And so I had to make, little jumper wires and, curl them up so where the solder ball would normally fit, because there's no pad there anymore. And that was tough to learn how to do that.
And you can't try to fix it too many times because you just keep burning and burning the
Yeah,
board,
I mean,
right?
I did it a bunch of times, but I didn't want to lose.
Okay.
And and the thing is that once it could slip a little bit and cause a short circuit under there, which may be a big problem, or you may be able to recover from it.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's one that comes to mind. But thankfully, I got it to work.
You got it to work.
Got it to work.
Oh, I have another one. I blew up a charger once on camera. It was one of these RC chargers that is dumb. Like, it lets you push too much power through it until the MOSFET just blew up. And literally just, ball of fire kind of thing. So then I thought, well, no big deal. I'll just look up the MOSFET, number, and I order it or whatever. And then I order it and got in. And I'm like, it's 3 legs, right? And you desolder the other one. I had to fix the board because the fire that came out of it kind of made a hole in the wood.
Oh, yeah.
But
okay.
I'm like, I could see where the leg was at. So I just like, so I was like, I'm even going to record it, and I'm like, oh, here's how you fix this charger, Then it didn't work. And I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, so then MOSFETs need like another circuit to be able to drive them, right? A drive circuit. And so what people were saying, because by the way, this is like a bunch of people that are watching me doing this, and they're like, oh yeah, the drive circuit probably died also. And so I was like, oh, that's like another chip that I couldn't read the thing. And I was like, okay, I'll give up.
You gave up.
I just
Okay,
gave
all
up
right.
on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I could change the MOSFET, but I couldn't change the driver for that.
Yeah, thanks for the props there. Battery addiction, fixing an old iPhone 6's commitment. Yeah, I didn't want to lose.
Yeah, but you succeeded. I didn't. I gave up.
I've given up plenty of times. I have given up plenty
I
of times.
worked in the IT field. If you need help, let me know. Oh, there you go.
See, you can ask
I hate IT.
ask your friends here.
Windows.
So somebody asked, I saw somewhere on there, someone asked about bifacial solar panels.
Oh.
They're worth it.
Yeah. What is a bifacial solar?
So basically, think of a solar panel. You normally have it pointing towards the sun. Just take that times 2 and put it on the backside. So it's another whole solar cell on the backside. So there's 2 of them.
Okay.
Back to back.
Back to back.
So
Wait. So you're saying it can detect sunlight from this side and this side?
yes.
Oh, okay. So it's 2 solar panels.
Yeah, so it has glass on both sides. So a normal solar panel would have glass on the top, the solar cells, and then a back sheet.
Backer. Yeah.
And the back sheet's there to keep out moisture and try to reflect some light back up in there. But on a bifacial, it has glass on both sides and a solar cell. And so it doesn't make as much sense to buy. You have to look at the costs of all these things. Right?
Okay.
If it's cheaper to buy bifacial for whatever reason, then buy the cheaper one. That's fits the specs that you need.
Yeah.
But if it's a one side or a bifacial, and it's going to go flat on a surface,
Yeah, well,
then just don't buy the bifacial because you're not going to get that bifacial gain of the.
So what are those typically used for? Like in somewhere where you're gonna place them, maybe like standing up.
Oh, well, they have great use like in a ground mount situation.
Ground.
Or if you're going to use them as a. So some people use their solar panels as like a roof structure, like on a say like a barn or some, maybe not a barn, but like some outbuilding they have on their property.
Okay.
You could set up the panels such that that's the roof, and there's going to be some bifacial gain from underneath.
So the light bounces and then
Yeah.
it'll hit it from
Yep.
the bottom.
Yep.
So they produce more than a single panel
Well, yeah, you have more. You have
because you have
more.
more surface. And so the bottom surface is not generating as much as the top, but something is better than nothing.
Right. You're going to put this solar panel in with this frame. You're going to put it somewhere. You can get more out of it this way.
Ah, I see. So bifacial. See, I didn't know that. That is a good question. So only if it makes financial sense or your application could make use of that.
Yeah. Or
feature.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you can get them cheap enough, then you might want to go with those because then you might get some bifacial gain even if you put it on a roof with a rail, maybe, but
You got to do some tests to see. So the thing is, like, I remember I went to Arizona and they had lights, street lights that were solar powered. So they basically was a light with a solar panel and a little battery. And so during the day it would
charge up.
But like the ones you see typically are like a little flat solar panel that is like typically facing south here, right? Because towards the equator, right? I think that's the thing. But over there, it wasn't. It was just a solar, like flexible thing that was around the pole.
Interesting. Okay.
So I was like, oh, look, in Arizona, there's so much light that even placing this thing where it's like never facing the sun,
Yeah.
it's enough to generate enough electricity to charge that
To run
battery
it.
to run that light at night.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to run because when we did our solar installation at EV West and I made that video, we literally left our panels laying flat. There's like these little things that you put in and so we're not at the equator, so you should be facing them south, right? A few degrees to face towards the equator. And they're like, well, you guys did it wrong because you're not. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because we get enough sunlight to make this, worth it, right? So you don't have to shoot for perfect every time.
Right, yeah.
Perfect is, what do they say? Perfect's the enemy of something. Which means, I don't know, there's a saying. It's basically, don't
There's some
shoot
saying somewhere, right?
for perfect every single time because you would never do anything.
So here's a comment. You could use mirrors or some kind of film, like maybe like a Mylar film, if you wanted to go that far.
To reflect
light onto the bifacial, but I don't know how practical that is.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, right?
I might actually, I got some mirrors. I might do a YouTube video on that very topic to see, what kind of gain do you get from bifacial with mirrors. So.
But now you have to pay for the mirrors. Mirrors are not cheap. Well, maybe they
Well,
are.
I got them from the trash.
Okay, yes. In your case, I guess. Yeah. How about? So I'm thinking about this. I don't have access to the roof here. Right? It's in the thing. I'm sure if I asked them, if I begged them, they would allow me to do something, right? But for right now, they're like, no, their stance is like no tenants allowed in these roofs at all. But we have this giant skylight or dome, whatever. So a lot of sun comes through there. And we were talking to some of my guys, and they're like, what if we just like put solar panels just there and then put like some kind of augmenting, like,
Directing beam of light.
Yeah, what if you do that thing, And I'm like, probably not. I don't know. Maybe. I'm like,
It's probably not worth
it's
it.
probably not worth it.
No, you'd be better off probably just putting them out.
Laying them out.
Outside.
Yeah. Creating some kind of like
Yeah.
mobile like shade for the car. It's like, hey, this is my car
like something
shade,
like that.
and it's full of solar panels on top.
Yep.
Oh, fixing an old iPhone 6's commitment.
Yeah.
Too bad we can't upgrade the old software.
There are many YouTube videos on reflecting light. Okay, well, then I don't need to make one.
Oh, really? I just started watching builds using the 18650s, a little more complex than the Eve cell builds. Oh, yeah. So he's talking about the Eve cells are these giant bricks that are like 100 amp hours or 280 amp hours. Now there's 380 amp hours. So there's giant lithium iron phosphate bricks. And those, like, you literally just connect a few of them. You put 4 of them, that's 12 volts, or you put 8 of them, it's 24, right?
Uh-huh.
So 16, I think, would be 48. So those are much easier to connect together than a bunch of little 18650s, right? But I think at this point, the problem with those is that you still have to buy them on AliExpress, so that you have to send sometimes thousands of dollars to some unknown seller.
Is the quality good?
That's the other thing. That the quality varies a lot between each brick. So you'll get
each brick. Oh, okay.
And that's always been the case. Like back in the day, we used to use lithium iron phosphate for our conversions. That's the first battery that I bought for my bus. And you would get 100 bricks. And the variance between the highest capacity and the lowest capacity, it would be like 15 amp hours or something on a 100 amp hour brick. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like 15% variance between, and that's
And these are new.
These are brand new.
Yeah.
These are, and only 100 bricks. So you're like, what? There's a 15% variance in, and then like 5 of them are like above 10% or so. You're like, these are not worth it. That's why a bunch of those battery builds died. It's because, you just couldn't keep up. Like a BMS wouldn't keep up with the losses, the internal, it was internal problems that they had. So that was because they were building a battery that was giant. It was hard to, you would have to go through them, like thousands of them, and then like pair them into light configurations, right? Like, oh, these are grade A, these are grade Bs, and these are grade Cs, and then you just use with all the ones that are alike. But they never did that. And I think that's still the case today.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. So they're, and then
so it's a little bit of a Wild West when you're buying.
Yes. And that's why we stopped using the lithium iron phosphate for cars. And they didn't have the energy density that we needed. So the 18650s were much better. And that's why Tesla was using them, because those were being made in the billions by the time they came around. Because think about it, they were making every single laptop back in the day had 18650s. And so they were making so many of them that they have gotten the processes down to where the variance was like super small, like one out of every million or something cell. And that's why NASA used them in their, the spacesuits. They needed a battery to keep all the systems. They were 18650s. They did a huge, there's a paper that they released where they tested all these batteries that existed at the time, and they went for an 18650 because they're the best batteries in the world. And I think they probably still are. I mean, now I think the best ones are probably the pouches that are in here, because these are made in the billions, right? And now they're using them in all kinds of devices like computers and iPads and all this other stuff. So yeah, there's probably other good batteries, but the lithium iron phosphate is still kind of a scary thing, because you have to buy these big batteries in China and you have to wait like 2-3 months for them to come.
And you don't know if they're
going
to be the same quality.
Yeah. And who's going to be like, oh, I got 8 of them. Oh, 1 out of the 8 is off. The deviation's too much. I'm going to have to order another. You should be doing that, but most people are not. They're like, we'll just see how it works. And so then, you get a thing where that one brick dies eventually, when? I don't know. Is it next year? Is it 5 years from now?
I think I saw someone saying there that there was almost 100 likes.
Oh, where are we?
How many likes are there now?
Where are we in our likes?
Is it time for giveaway?
93?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, not yet, guys. Oh, Editor-in-Chief, thank you for the $5. By the way, if you guys want to support this live chat in this channel, you could just do the super chats. It's when you decide to give us a little bit of money there. Okay, 90 plus likes, almost like 100. Yeah, so we'll give a battery at 100 likes. Wow, today's slow. I don't know what's happening. It's early. See, that's what happens.
Okay. Do you mean we should keep going for another couple hours?
Our general audience is still at work. Bunch of losers. What are you guys still doing at work? No, just kidding. The bifacial one might do better. I've not seen them tested in cloudy. What are the ones that are... Okay, so I heard that there are solar panels that take more than... So like the general light has different... It's only like a tiny portion of the spectrum, right? Like the visible spectrum, but there's some that take like a wider range of the spectrum, so then they can use those. Like, what are those? The ones that are where there's a bunch of these plants that have those mirrors and they focus the light and they put them into these little solar panels.
Oh, you know what? On the plane ride, I saw them.
Oh yeah, the ones out here.
And they're out near Las Vegas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yes.
It was like the sun was on the earth.
Yes, you can't look
bright.
at them. It's
yeah.
just like
From like, I don't know, 100 miles away. It was up in the airplane. It was, it was super bright. I don't know what they're called, but
so those are not solar
they,
panels.
They boil the water, right?
Yeah, they have like, I think they have salted water or salt thing or some kind of oil, and they heat that up, and then that heats water up, and then that creates
the
steam
and the steam engine.
It's such a complex system.
Yeah.
But anyways, it works, I guess.
Yeah.
But there are some that use this special solar panels that can take a wider range of the spectrum. And those are the ones that you can shoot like super concentrated light into. And they can get up to like, hundreds of degrees or whatever. Because like you can't do that with a regular panel, right? Like if you shoot too much light in there, you'll just melt it, I think.
Well, that's a heat issue.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure if there's a new technology you're talking about.
There is, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you guys that are out there will be able to tell me.
Yeah, they certainly do accept more. You're going to have an electric field beyond the visible light spectrum.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of light in there, a lot of other invisible light to our eyes, right? But they have energy. Working from home, says Emmanuel.
Oh, here we go. Some are oil, some are molten salt.
Molten salt.
Some are flowing sand.
Flowing
I
sand.
wonder how the sand works out. Does it melt it?
Isn't glass sand? So now you're saying it's molten glass? Because that's molten sand? Any tips on what equipment to buy to diagnose circuit boards? Ooh, there you go. That's a question for you.
Oh, okay.
What equipment do you use?
Diagnose circuit boards. Okay, so you want to have a good digital multimeter.
Yes.
That's probably my main go-to thing.
Yeah.
And I also would recommend getting one that has good tips, like fine tips.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, you don't have to spend a lot of money on a multimeter, but a lot of times the tips are they're like big and fat. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to try to use them on something small, it's really tough.
Yeah.
So it would be good to buy a little bit where the probe ends are a little bit tinier.
Yes.
That way you can test, a whole range of things, but you don't have to buy an expensive one. That gets the job done.
But there are like cheap ones that don't work. Like they're not very accurate. Right? They don't measure like I know with voltage. I know some cheap ones they're not very accurate with voltage. I don't know like resistance, because don't they have to be really sensitive to be able to, like when you're trying to figure out if like what resistors in there, you put it on. Right?
Well, I usually don't even need to worry about that for most diagnosis situations. Most of the time, you're looking for if there's power on, you want to measure the voltage.
Yeah.
And if there's power off, you want to measure if there is a short circuit.
Yeah.
And so you put it in continuity modes where it beeps.
Yeah.
Or maybe yours doesn't beep and it has a light that goes off or something. But usually they
beep. Get one that beeps. It's really useful. You don't have to
much better.
Yeah, you don't have to look at it every time if you're checking multiple points.
Yeah, and so when there's no power, you can check for that situation. And so those are some of the main ones, checking for shorts and the voltage when the power is on. So if it's lower than you're expected at one point, and you can trace it back to a certain point where it is the voltage that you need, it is correct. Well, something's wrong between those 2 points, and you could figure it out. That's probably the main thing that I use to diagnose. Obviously, Google is
You would have
is a
to.
big
So
tool.
the next thing is you'd have to know what is supposed to happen on that board, right?
Yeah, a lot of times there's printing on the board that tells you, like, this is 5 volts or this is 12 volts when it comes into the board, and there's usually a fuse there. I guess some of it is you have to know what the components are, and there's not too many of them. It would be worth it to watch a couple YouTube videos about, like, okay, what are the components? What are the typical surface mount components?
Yeah.
And many times on the printed circuit board, it says right on there, like, C105. Well, that means it's a capacitor.
Or R1.
R is a resistor, and D is a diode. And so you get to know what those are and learn a little bit about how to test them. So if it's a capacitor, you should not get continuity across it. So if you put your leads on both sides and it beeps, then you have a short to ground somewhere.
Okay.
And it could be that capacitor, it could be somewhere else. So that's usually one of the first things I would check is using continuity or measuring the voltage with power on.
Okay, and that's to check discrete components, right? So that's our components that are standalone. But then you get into chips that have, like, whole systems inside.
Yeah, then
right?
if you have a whole chip, if you're a chip where there's a problem, then it's
different.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had a schematic where you knew what the pinouts were for the chip, then you have a much better chance to know, okay, this pin is supposed to be ground, this pin is supposed to be 5 volts, this pin is a clock line, or whatever, and so then you can diagnose it more accurately.
Yeah, so it's like when you have a circuit board, that's like a system, and it's got discrete components. It's like each component does, like, a limited amount. But when you have a chip, it's like a circuit inside of that chip, right? It's got its own MOSFETs, and there's a bunch of things that are inside the chips, right? And then sometimes those chips actually need to have custom software installed in there. So even if you were to buy that
You mean like
chip,
a firmware chip?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? There are some that have. So
Yeah, you have to program them.
you have to program. You have to see what's in there. So program a set of parameters, or maybe, I don't know, like a whole program in there or something. So it gets a little bit more complex when you start thinking about chips.
Another thing that I use is just my eye, because sometimes there is, if you look very closely, and that's where having that magnification helps too.
Yeah.
But if it's something that maybe you picked up and you don't know the history of it, then always do a visual scan, because there could be something that's burned. There could be something that's corroded. Maybe even ask the person that you got it from, like, hey, did you ever spill water on this? And they say no. But one time, they were brushing their teeth and they put their laptop or device to the side on the toilet, and one little droplet went over there, and they totally didn't even think about it. But that thing made its way in there, corroded the wrong thing, and now it stopped working. Yeah. And when you look at it, you'll be able to see that greenish, corrosion, the copper. I think that's what it is. The copper is oxidizing, and that's what that greenish is. And then that way you're like, okay, that's a trouble spot right there. I need to go investigate that some more.
Yeah.
And so visual inspection. I've had it where if you turn it on, you can use your nose because something's burning, or it's too hot.
Okay.
You can smell it.
You can smell it.
Or you can hear it if it's buzzing.
Oh yeah. If it's buzzing.
So using all the senses, and you can also, this is one of those being careful things, right? You could put your hand on the circuit board to feel where there's maybe some.
Make sure
some
it's not
heat.
a high. High
so
voltage.
so you could get a thermal imaging camera.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing too. I have one of those, and that's if you're getting serious into repairing things, that's a worthwhile tool to have.
Yeah, if you're building batteries, yeah, it's a good idea because that's how you catch where the problems are going to be. You run your battery, and then you stand back and you're like, okay, where is it hot? Oh, is it that right there? Oh, that cell's hot. That cell shouldn't be hot. They're all should be around the same, right? Boom, pop it out, put a new one, or a connector, or a thing. I don't know if you saw the last one that I did, the Blue Eddy, where I thought like, hey, these spades might not be up to par on, because now these new ones, the EcoFlow can charge at like 1,800 watts off the wall, and then in the back they're just using these little spades. I thought like, and they're loose and stuff, and I'm like, I get 1,800 watts to these? Come on, like, so then.
Oh, that's right. You had your
Boom.
thermal imaging camera.
And I'm like, oh, okay, they're running within spec of the temperature. They're fine. So someone picked the right ones. I just didn't know what I'm talking about. But that's how you test it, right? How about a oscilloscope?
Yeah, oscilloscope. That's a good one. I have one, but I don't really use it.
Ah, okay.
I don't find that I need it, but maybe I just don't repair enough things.
Okay. Oh, so speaking of oscilloscope, is related to one of my biggest failures. Okay, so I'll tell you another one of my failures. Back in the day, I was trying to build this DIY charger, right? And a charger is just a power supply that you can set different inputs and outputs, right? And you can tell the rate at which you want. So anyways, I wanted to build a 10 kilowatt charger, because the ones that were available were really expensive. I mean, a 10 kilowatt charger, you're talking about like a couple $1,000s for a charger, right? But then someone made one using an Arduino, and they wrote the code, and you would sell you the kit, and they would sell you the board, and everything, all the components. They would put it as a kit form, right? And so all you have to do is just follow a long list of steps. You put this in here, install the caps, install the things. So I ran through the whole thing, and there's some steps that were missing, and the guy, you had to know certain stuff to be able to catch it. If you were brand new, like if you didn't know what you were doing, then you would get stuck in certain steps or whatever, right? So I got stuck, and I think what happened is that I couldn't check to see if the Arduino was spitting out the right signal, right? And I didn't have an oscilloscope, and I didn't know how to use an oscilloscope. And the guy never told me that. Oh, I think he said like, oh, well, the only way to diagnose this is with an oscilloscope. And then that's where it died for me. I was like, I don't have one of those. They seem like really hard to use. Like, So I just bought all these parts, and it was a whole kit. I think it was like a few $100s or something. It was a big project. I mean, DIY kit, like a few $100s. And I never finished it. I still have it somewhere around there, and I haven't.
Future
maybe,
YouTube video.
Yes. That would be the greatest achievement, I think, for me, would be to finish that charger. Imagine if I was able to.
Okay, so does that mean you have to get an oscilloscope?
I have to get an oscilloscope. I have one.
Okay,
I have one.
All right. So it says there's 107 likes.
Oh,
at least someone says it.
Yes. So here's this is Brian right here.
Oh, we passed 100 likes.
Yes. Okay, confirm. Okay, so we're gonna give a 20 cell pack. These are batteries. They're 10S, so 36.
This is exciting.
36 volts and so you can use this to power anything. These are good for e-bikes. They're a little bit like weak to have just a single one on an e-bike, right? But if you have pedal assist, then you could use it. If you want to have one where you don't have to pedal at all, you can just put two of these together and just parallel them, and then you get double the amperage out of them, right? So they have a BMS installed on them already, so that's why they quit around 10 amps. So they can do 10 amps for a few seconds, and then after that they quit. They just turn themselves off so they don't. So there we go. Let me see.
So they have to comment.
Yeah, so I'm just going to pick a comment, just like random comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and you got to be within the United States, all right? Remember that. If you're international, I can't send you this battery. Okay, here we go.
Do we have to have a drum roll?
Boom. I just pinned it. Can you see the pin there? Boom, sir.
Really 3.
Really 3. You win the battery. If you don't know what to do with it. Oh, by the way, go to Jack35, make an account, put your info, your address, and all the stuff, because that allows us to just pick you, search your name on the, customer database, and then we just put it in your cart, and then you ship it out. And that's the simplest form that we've been able to get these done. Other ways, I have to get your email and forward to the guy, and it takes days. I forget about it. So this is the way. So go to Jack35, and then email support@Jack35, letting us know your name and that you won here. And then
Congratulations.
You won.
Congrats.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? What kind of project do you have in mind?
So, I can show you later. I didn't show you upstairs, but basically what I'm doing is making a power strip. So for those of you guys who know, it's like a power strip is you hook up a bunch of things to it, right? And it serves to push power out. But in this case, it's like a reverse power switch. So we put these batteries and you connect them all into this power strip, and it combines them all. And now you can make a really large 36-volt battery pack that can run your house. You can run, hundreds of amps through them. And so on the early ones, I did it with the other version of batteries. They were kind of complex because they had a safety feature that they required a special binary code to be fed back into the BMS so they could turn on. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it was the code that basically the brain of this scooter would spit out once you put your credit card info, and then you do the thing, and then you buy the ride.
Okay, all right.
Right? And so the battery had to be on. So think about this, because the battery has to be on for you to do all this stuff, to connect to it and open your app and stuff. But it has to not be able to let you just ride. So the battery would be on, but as soon as it detected any load more than 1 amp, it would shut off.
Oh, so if you tried to ride it.
If you try to ride it, it would just shut off, and then it'd be off for like a minute. And then after a minute, it will kick back on. And everything would be on except you couldn't put a load more, right? So you couldn't just ride it. Mm-hmm. So then once you put in that code and then that spit out the right code, then the BMS would allow you to run up to 25 amps. So full load. And now you can ride it around. Mm. So we had to figure that out to be able to use them for our uses, right? And so what we did is we learned how to program an Arduino. And then that Arduino would spit out that code, and then we did a bunch of tests, and it was working.
You can't just modify the PCB that's on the battery, or is that too much work?
Well, that would be too much work because they're encased in this aluminum casing that was super beefy.
Okay, all right.
And so they're watertight. So I'm like, why are we undoing a bunch of this?
Do it from the outside.
Do it outside.
All right.
And then one single Arduino could send that code to a bunch of batteries.
Okay. And
they would all wake up, right? And they would all. So that's what I did. The first, I had to learn how to design circuit boards. So I downloaded the app, and I'm like, I thought it's hard because that's weird, but I had to do it.
Overcame fear.
Overcame that fear. And I learned, and now I'm making PCB boards for everything, So any little thing, I'm like, where can I design another circuit board? So that board had the Arduino in there, and so now we had to get power to the Arduino, and the Arduinos usually run at 3.3 volts or 5 volts, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of hard to find a device that would do up to 42 volts that the 36 volts fully charged give, and then step it down to that, right? And so I tried a bunch of different ones, and we ended up getting some little cheap one that has the right thing, and a lot of them failed. They were because we're reaching that, I think it's the top voltage they can do is 45 volts, and with this batteries fully charged, they're 42, so a lot of those would just burn up. And so, and I didn't want to design a whole
You didn't want
DC.
You didn't want another power source?
So, because then that would just kind of complicate the thing, right? I mean, you have a bunch of batteries. You're you need a separate thing? Come on. You should use those batteries, right? So that's what I ended up putting in that circuit board. on that power strip. It has the logic to be able to wake them up, and then it's got 2 different circuits, one for charging and then one for discharging. And then I ended up just putting like an actual meter that has like a little wireless thing so you can put outside of your box, and then you can read what the voltage is and the whole thing. So that's how it started. Now these batteries are a little bit simple, but that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to use those. And you'll be able to put them in a big box and do 20 kilowatt hours or whatever, you know? What are they saying? Arduino is an amazing technology. Yeah, I had to learn how to program Arduino too.
Yeah, I haven't learned how to do that.
Oh, yeah, it's
that's on my list.
It's fun. And you know, to tell you the truth, it's like it was like Chinese to me, right? I'm like, and then I gave it to my brother Misa. Misa doesn't know anything about electronics, but he knows how to code for like websites and stuff. And he picked it up like this. He was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, I just need this thing to turn on these relays, and if this is like this, then this happens, and he just picked it up. He was like, "Okay." Where I just spent days looking at it, scratching my head, and just couldn't figure it out, right? So, yeah, it's just, I think it's hard, but, you know, things that are hard, if you learn them, those are the best things.
There you go.
And they give you the most satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which battery he was giving away? Yeah, so I gave away a 20-cell pack. It's the ES4 internal battery. And he just linked it
Oh, I
right
put
there.
the link to it.
Yeah, he put the link in there.
There you go.
Jehu Garcia, what does it say? Could you please make a part 2 video to the all-wheel drive electric skateboard? Oh, another one. Oh, man, we're really going to talk about all my failures here. So, do you remember the hoverboards?
Yeah.
Okay, the hoverboards was these little things, right? They ended up catching fire. So they got bad.
Only a minor problem.
Yes. So they got bad in almost every like marketplace. So what happened is that they became available everywhere. People used them and they didn't want to use them, and they just left them in the garage. So then they put them up on eBay. And so on eBay, they were super cheap. And I thought, well, these are like cool little things. They have 2 motors. And I'm like, we should be able to do something. So what I did is I made a skateboard with the wheels. And because these are like 6 wheels, so there's like, oh, it's an off-road thing. Or the problem with them is that at 36 volts, they have a top end speed of like 10 miles per hour. So they don't go very fast. And so I thought like, oh, I need to figure out how to make them faster. And these are 3-phase induction motors, right? So, well, not induction. These are BLDCs that are, you know, like they have permanent magnets on them.
Okay.
So I was like, well, maybe we can rewire them. Maybe we can, because there's 2 ways of wiring them, one Y or delta. I just went down the line trying to figure, and I did things, and I tried a bunch of things, and I just failed. So I just kind of gave up on that project. But the original video got a lot of views and so much of
Oh, wow.
And now they're still
So a
asking
failed
me.
video, failed project.
Yes. So I was able to get the video, you know, with the thing that just did, you know, 10 miles an hour. And it was fun. It was like, it had a lot of torque, and you can go up hills, and you can run over, you know, homeless people.
Well, you have demand for part 2.
Yes. So part 2 was where I was going to show you how to do, you know, I was so confident. I was like, oh, in part 2, I'm going to show you how to make this to go like 50 miles an hour or whatever. And so here are people still asking about it. Sorry, I gave up on that. I don't know how to make that go faster. We're going to have to get an expert in here to teach me how to do it.
Oh, the person who won the battery said they want schematics. You have schematics with that battery?
I don't have schematics, no. Nobody makes schematics for those. Those are proprietary. They are kind of proprietary. So Ninebot made those batteries. And yeah, they have a BMS, but because they do have a data cable in there, but we just don't know what to do with it.
You don't know what it is, okay.
But we don't need it for our own purposes. Like if you just want to use it to build a battery or like a DIY Blue Eddy or DIY EcoFlow, you don't need to. You just need to know how to click on that little reset button.
Yeah, okay.
And it just resets the system.
Works.
It turns
Okay.
on. Yeah. So there are ways around it.
Oh, you want schematics for your other project?
Oh!
You mean like instructions? instruction set.
Yes. So I also did, okay, so one of the other big videos that I did was before Blue Eddy and before EcoFlow, the biggest solar generator was one that was called a Kodiak. It was like a box like this, and it had like an inverter. So it was really expensive, like $3,000 or something. So I thought like, oh, better than Kodiak, you know, DIY or something. Mm-hmm. So I made a video and I showed people how to do it in a little Pelican case. Mm-hmm. And I built it, and then people were like, well, we're having trouble figuring out how to connect the thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to make a schematic, you know, and I'm going to make a schematic. And I kept saying, and I never made a schematic. Now it doesn't make sense because now those batteries are no longer available. You can't even buy the inverter. It's like obsolete. So now it's like, I can't make, but people are still asking me for schematics or that. So I owe my audience a lot of things that I never delivered on. Sorry, I'm a loser. Candace James. You need to get a Propel Endeavor suspension board to test. I wonder what that is. I don't know what that is, Quinn. Thank you for the update. I want schematics with your projects. I will try to give you guys schematics for the future projects. Oh, so what I'm doing is even making it easier now. So because now I can make those circuit boards, right? So the next one that I'm gonna do, better than Blue Eddy or whatever I'm gonna call that video, I don't know yet. It literally has text in there and it says like, okay, install the inverter here, and it has like little pads and you know and holes where you can put them, and it's got the cables in there, and this ones go here, you know, this one goes over there, and so it's got everything's laid out on the board.
So it's like a Lego, and you put it together.
Yes. So the instructions are going to be on the actual, and then I also got on the last project that I did. It has like, oh, for further like video instructions, go to this URL address, and I put like a little URL.
That's
address.
good.
You know, so. Yeah. I'm thinking about you guys. I'm not just leaving you out there to figure it out on your own. It's just, you know, it's taking some time.
There you go. Have me blow up your battery pack, or blow up the BMS and fix it.
Oh.
This one right here.
Wait a minute. So
battery addiction.
You should send Reese back with a few. Oh, yeah. Wait.
The only problem is they don't allow them on planes.
Yeah, no, I'd have to send you. Reese, you have to go to Jack 35, make an account of your life of battery units. Oh, yeah, because you can test them and see. Yeah. So that's the other thing, right? Like I've seen the videos on like how to replace the BMSs on these. And they're like the actual BMS boards that like China, you can buy them on AliExpress. Uh-huh. They're more expensive than almost selling the batteries for.
Oh,
you know?
Wow.
They're like $10, really? $12, $15 or something for that. And you're like,
Yeah. Not worth it.
Not worth it. So maybe those batteries that have blown BMS boards, no, those we take them apart and we salvage the cells, right? But the thing is that there's so many, and most of them are good. And we're so confident that we're just telling the people, and it's like, if you get a bad one, just let us know. We'll send you another one, you know, because Candace James on DIY Solar has different playlists that will take you on the basics of it. Oh, there you go. Candace James. Who's Candace James? Another YouTuber, probably?
Yeah, I don't know that. Don't know that channel.
Ooh, I think Jay's starter packs are a thing of genius. So that's also another thing that I'm putting together, like little like projects. Like so those boards that I showed you, those are great because literally it allows anyone to just, like you're mounting batteries to your remote control, right? Yeah. Also, it's got fuses in there. Every single line has a bunch of fuses. So it's like, so when you make a mistake, the fuses just blow.
Yeah, you'll know.
And
yeah,
so
that's what you want. You want the fuse to blow, not something else.
Yeah, not your hand, like melt or your cables melt. So what ends up happening is that they create a lot of frustration on people that are learning because then it just doesn't work. And you're like, but now they have to go and troubleshoot. And now they learn that, oh, I put the battery backwards or I did the thing. But what it definitely doesn't do is when they build these giant batteries and then they're using them and then they catch fire, right? Because that's really dangerous. And then that will, like, absolutely, maybe a lot of people are like, oh, I'm never playing with batteries ever again. And that's where we don't want to be. Because, like, I mean, batteries can be dangerous, like anything else. But if you do it the right way, so I kind of erred on the side of safety. You know, if you make a mistake, it just, the whole thing just turns off, you know?
Yeah.
And
It's
then
a good
you have to
design.
figure it out. And I got quite a bit of criticism. So what happens is, like, people who watch my videos early on, they're like, oh, look at this guy. This guy, he's doing something cool over here. I'm going to learn from him, right? And then they build their battery. But then once they build their battery, they decide, like, oh, this stuff that he's doing is too dumb. You know, it's like, he doesn't know what he's doing. So then they become like this expert that know more than me. And so they come back and they criticize me for it, you know? And they're like, oh, okay, you're on the other side over there. I'm like, cool. I should, like, be getting with everyone, but I'm still kind of stuck teaching people how to do some basic stuff, right? And I'm in the middle. I don't do, like, super basic stuff, and I don't do super advanced stuff, but I'm somewhere in the middle because I think I'm more efficient there. But those people, I see the circle going, you know, it's like they come in and they're like, look at me, and I'm like, oh, this guy's a genius. And then they build their own battery, and now they're like, oh, that guy's an idiot. But I get it. I don't take it personally.
But you help them get started.
I help them get started, yeah. And it's just the thing, you know? It's like...
What's the mega dongle?
The mega dongle. So, those little batteries, we had a lot of them. We had like 10,000 of those batteries, right? So, we had to figure out how to use them. And they had, by the way, like really good cells. They had a Panasonic NCR, like 3,400 milliamp hour 1850. So, they were like high quality cells, right? And basically, we were like, we had to figure out how to use them. So we made this little device with Arduino, and it was a small thing, and it had the custom connector. It was like a proprietary connector and stuff. We went through a lot of trouble to get, and so we called it a dongle. And it was just a device that you put in between your battery.
Okay.
So then that was the dongle, right? And people bought it. We made hundreds of those things. It was crazy, probably 1,000 of them or something. And when it came down to doing that big board, that it was to put like 20 of those batteries together, then we just called it the megalodongle.
Mega dongle.
The megalodongle. And so I told them, as it turns out, it was too much time for my guys to build that. It was very, very, like, time consuming because you have to get like 40 different connectors, and you have to, like, you know, splice them and, you know, solder them. And I'm like, this is taking us too long. It's like, well, I'm going to have to sell this for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, you know, to make any money on it. So then I decided to make a short run. And then after that, I go, I'm going to make everything else available. You have the Gerber files, so you can, you know, print your own boards. And I'm going to give you the links to get the connectors and the thing. But you guys have to do it because I can't do it. Like, my guys would be tied up there forever. And so now this is where we're at. And so people are still asking me for it. And they're like, I missed the dongle, you know. Sorry. That's just the way it works.
That's
like,
the way it goes.
it was a limited production. A few people got them. Will you be making another e-bus? Yes, I'm working on like 4 more right now. It's just I'm getting really deep into like gears and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I will be making videos about that.
You're trying
once
to
I
crack
get
the
there.
code.
Yeah, how to do it on the cheap. I'm trying to make a conversion for less than $10,000, but a compelling conversion. You know, like 200 horsepower with like at least 150, maybe 200 miles of range for under 10 grand. So that's a tall order. You know what I mean? So it's going to take me a little while, but I'm on the, yeah, I do that. I work on that almost every day, a little bit, you know, here and there, while I'm not shipping batteries and all that nonsense. I have not seen you talk about USB-C PD much. Found a module that lets you make your own 100-watt battery PD, and it's not on Amazon or even yet. So, do you know what that is?
Which one?
USB-C.
I know what USB-C
PD?
is.
The PD, I think it's the higher voltage ones, right? I think that's probably what your like Mac uses. I think that's like 19 volts. Might be up to like 24 volts, I think. So that same USB-C connector has several voltages.
Oh, okay.
And on the top end, I think that's the PD.
Is the 100 watt?
100 watt. Up
Okay.
to 100 watt, yeah. And so they're basically asking like if we build a battery box, there's not a lot of these like things that you can plug the battery box to go into that USB-C.
So they want you to put a USB-C port on it?
Yeah, to be able to, plug in, charge your laptop or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're not as available. I think yeah, you're right. I don't know if I've seen one already on the market. Had to pull off my order on the starter packs. Thanks to Hurricane Ida. By the way, every time the hurricanes come, then our customers start sending us emails, and they go like, "Oh, look, this I was powering our house last night," and then they'll send us like their own little systems they coupled up and stuff.
Oh, you mean like how it worked for them?
How it worked,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
And
that's
so-
encouraging.
Yeah, I'm like, there you go. That's what you should be doing,
Yep. Yeah, that's really encouraging.
Not a YouTube channel. Jay Garcia, not a YouTube channel. Was just asking for advice on beginning into batteries. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. CE675. He won one. I told him I would give him my personal one. You know what? They took it out of my desk upstairs, so I think it's on its way. CET675. So I think your mega dongle is coming. If you followed the instructions and made an account on our website and you emailed Brian at support@Jack35, then I think your mega dongle is coming. If not, we'll make another one for you because I promised it.
Okay. You promised.
I promise, so I gotta make it now. Make the mega dongle as the kit for DIY. Yeah, I think it's there already. You guys have to go check it at Jack35. So power delivery, that's what the PD stands for. Jay will email you about USB. Okay. Oh. Will Prowse has great beginner tutorial videos. These two are above my intelligence level. There you go. My audience keeps, always telling me Will Prowse. What they don't know is that we used to be friendly at one point, but then he kind of went rogue on me. So I was like, I thought you had one mega dongle left. My wife is going to kill me. No, I did. I had one, and it was in my desk, and it's now gone. So I think it's because they're shipping it to you. And he's one from one of these live streams like the other day, and I told him that I would give it to him. All right, guys. 4:38. We've been here since what? 2?
Yep.
So that's 2.5 hours. I guess we're gonna call it quits here because my voice is gonna give out now. I used to do this for 3 hours, by the way.
3
and
hours.
it was just Q&A. So the reason why this is kind of slow right now is because we were talking for so long. But when you start doing the Q&As, it just gets going and it gets going and it gets going and it gets to the point where you're like, I can't even read them fast enough, But that's cool, and it's cool that I didn't have to talk the entire time this time around.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. And what's the name of your channel?
It's called Frugal Repair.
Frugal Repair. So you guys could watch him over there. He's been doing some stuff that kind of crosses what I'm doing. He has a huge. Was that your most popular, or like that solar?
The video
installs.
The solar one, yes.
That's like a series, right?
I have some other solar videos in there. I don't know if I planned it out as a series.
Okay.
But I tried to cover different angles of what I thought people would be interested in learning.
Yeah, you were even talking about you were trying to explain how the solar panels are in series. I saw the one where you were breaking some
What
things
happens when they break? I wanted to make that in part because I saw people kneeling or walking on solar panels, or and I wanted people to understand that even though it's so strong, that glass is so strong.
Yeah.
If you're flexing them,
yeah,
those things are so fragile under there.
Yeah.
You know, and you hold it in your hand. I don't know if you've watched the video, it just snaps super easy. That's how fragile they are. And they can crack, not spectacularly like a big break. Microfractures.
Yeah.
And that's going to diminish your power production.
Yeah, which is why those ones that are semi-flexible don't work that well, right? Or because those are just regular. There's ones that are semi-flexible.
The thin film.
Yeah,
I'm not exactly sure they're.
Oh no! There's some that are like semi-flexible, but they're still the wafers, and you could hear them. Like if you're bending them, like you could hear the cracks in there. And you're like, oh, that's not gonna work as good.
That's probably not good then.
Yeah, that's different than the ones that I had. Those you can bend, and I think, but those are not anywhere near as sufficient as these other ones.
Yep. So I've repair videos on there. Some solar, getting into solar stuff. I think solar is great, and love to help people get more solar.
And you have some new video coming up that is going to be a full install, and you're going to go through the whole process.
Of another, a DIY solar install,
And it's going to be a big one, right? Like a big.
No, it'll be smaller than mine.
Smaller than yours.
But the point is not the size of the solar, but that an ordinary person can just do this.
Yeah.
Can put it in, and I think that's really cool. I really want to highlight that solar is really available to so many people.
Yeah.
Even if you get a quote that you might get from a solar installer might be too high, and you're amenable to, hey, maybe I can do this myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to help show you that that's possible.
That you're working with some company or something this time around, right? Like as far as making the parts available or something. Is it kind of like in a kit or?
Well, the people installing it are one of my neighbors. And so they're purchasing their system from a company that helps assist you in
the DIY.
In the DIY side. So like I did mine all myself, did all the research, all the purchasing, all the design work, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting. So it really makes it attractive for people who can do the labor part, but maybe they don't know how to size it correctly or what to put on the plan set form. And you certainly don't have to know anything about the National Electric Code. You don't even have to know what that is.
Okay.
Because it's provided to you. So materials, instructions, permit plans are given to you as part of the deal.
Okay. So it's going to be a lot different, and it's hopefully easier.
Yeah. So
this time around.
We're getting pretty close to installation. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I want to check that out because I'm going to go through that eventually, and I want to know. I haven't gone through that process, so I know you guys keep asking me about solar, but I don't really know that much about solar because other than a few solar panels that I have here, and I, play with from time to time. I don't really know how to do a full-on install, and you have, and now you're gonna do your second video. So there you go. If you're interested in that, you should check out his channel, and there's gonna be some good content there. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time. We'll do some more giveaways and stuff.
You got a super chat here.
Super chat, Seed675. Thank you for the $20. We'll definitely get that mega dongle out to you sooner rather than later. I'm gonna ask Brian there. All right, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.